हाय एवरीवन, वेलकम टू सक्सेस ड्रीम पाथ। आज की क्लास में हम लोग कंप्यूटर का 2500 प्लस क्वेश्चन आंसर सीरीज़ का वन शॉट में करेंगे, जो ऑल वन डे एग्जामिनेशन के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। मोस्ट एक्सपेक्टेड एंड पीवाई का क्वेश्चन है जो 90% है जो एग्जाम में आने का चांस है। तो इस वीडियो को स्किप मत करिएगा, पूरा लास्ट तक देखिएगा, आपका एक भी क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में छूटेगा नहीं।
1. Computer basics. What is the brain of computer? CPU. Which language does a computer understand? Binary language. What type of machine is a computer? Electronic. What is raw data called after processing information? What are raw facts called data? Which unit performs arithmetic operations? ALU. Which unit controls all operations? Control unit. What does CPU stands for? Central processing unit. What are physical parts of computer called hardware? What is a set of instruction called software? Which device is used to enter data? Keyboard. Which device displays output? Monitor. What type of memory is RAM? Volatile. What type of memory is ROM? Non-volatile. Which memory stores data temporarily? RAM. Which memory stores data permanently? ROM. What is the smallest unit of data? Bit. What is a group of 8 bit is called byte? Which computer is used at home? Personal computer. Which computer works on analog data? Analog computer. Which computer does both analog and digital data? Hybrid computer. Which generation used vacuum tube? First generation. Which generation used transistors? Second generation. Which generation used ICS? Third generation. Which generation uses microprocessor? Fourth generation. Which generation is based on AI? Fifth generation. What is the main circuit board called? Motherboard. Which device is used for pointing? Mouse. Which device prints output? Printer. Which device convert hard copy to soft copy? A scanner. What which storage device is magnetic? Hard disk. Which unit measures processor speeds? Hertz. What is the computer speed measured in hertz? Which software controls hardware? System software. What type of software is Windows system software? Which computer is most powerful? Supercomputer. Which computer is used in banks? Mainframe computer. What is the full form of PC? Personal computer. What type of computer is laptop? Portable. Which computer works automatically? Digital computer. Which unit stores instructions? Memory. What is the permanent storage called? Secondary storage. Which device shows visual output? Monitor. Which device produces sound output? Speaker. What is computer reliability called? Accuracy. What makes computer error free? Accuracy. Which features means working without stopping? Diligence. What is the ability to store large data called? Storage. Which feature means same result every time? Consistency. What is the limitation of computer? No intelligence. What is the speed of computer called? Processing speed. What enables a computer to work continuously? Diligence. What features of computer gives correct result? Accuracy. What is the capability to perform many tasks called? Versatility. What features storage? Huge data storage. What is computer reliability known as? Consistency? What is the main advantage of computer? Speed. What is the main limitation of computer? No intelligence. Which computer works on digital data? Digital computer. Which computer is used for scientific calculation? Supercomputer. Which computer supports multiple users? Mainframes. Which computer is smallest in size? Microcomputer. Which computer is also called PC? Microprocessor. What type of computer is desktop? Microcomputer. What type of computer is tablet? Portable computer. What type of computer is smartphone? Handheld computer. Which generation is called transistor generation? Second generation. Which generation reduce size in and heat? Second generation. Which generation increase speed and reliability? Third generation. Which generation introduced personal computer? Fourth generation. Which generation uses VLSI technology? Fourth generation. Which generation focuses on AI and robotics? Fifth generation. What is the full form of VDU? Visual Display Unit. Which device display information visually? Monitor. Which device provides hard copy? Printer. Which device accepts sound input? Microphone. Which device records image input? A scanner. Which device output sound? A speaker. What is the function of CPU? Processing. Which unit stores instruction temporarily? RAM. Which unit stores instruction permanently? ROM. What is the smallest storage unit? Bit. Which unit equals 1024 bytes kilobyte? Which unit equals 1024 kb megabyte? Which unit equals 1024 MB gigabyte? Which unit equals 1024 GB terabyte? What type of device is keyboard? Input device. What type of device is monitor? Output device. Which software is essential to run a computer? Operating system. Which OS is open source? Linux. Which OS is developed by Microsoft Windows? What is the full form of OS operating system? Which process starts computer system booting? What type of memory is cache? High speed memory. Which memory lies between CPU and ROM? Cache. Which storage device is optical? CD-ROM. Which storage device is portable? Pen drive. Which memory cannot be modified? ROM. What is computer automation called? Automation. What is ability to work without fatigue called? Diligence. What is the full form of ICT? Information and Communication Technology. What is the main function of computer? Data processing. What is the full form? GUI? Graphical user interface. Which interface uses icons and menus? GUI. Which interface uses commands? CLI. What is the full form of CLI? Command line interface. Which computer is used for weather forecasting? Supercomputer. Which computer is designed for a single user? Microcomputer. What is the full form of UPS? Uninterruptible, Uninterruptible power supply. What does UPS provide during power failure? Backup power. Which device protects computer from power fluctuation? UPS. What is the full form of OCR? Optical character recognition. Which device reads printed text into computer? OCR. What is the full form of OMR? Optical mark reader. Which device reads mark answers? OMR. What is the full form of MICR? Magnetic ink character recognition. Which device is used in banks for check processing? MICR. Which device records video input? Webcam. Which pointing device uses a light pen? Input device. Which device is used to draw directly on a screen? Light pen. Which device uses touch technology? Touch screen. What is the full form of LCD? Liquid crystal display. Which monitor consumes less power? LCD. What is the full form of LED? Light emitting diode. Which display provides better picture quality? LED. Which device is used for voice input? Microphone. Which device stores data on flash memory? Pen drive. What is the full form of HDD? Hard disk device. Which storage device uses magnetic disk? Hard disk. What is the full form of SSD? Solid state drive. Which storage device has no moving parts? SSD. Which device measures data entry accuracy? Validation. What is the process of checking input data called validation? Which computer characteristics means error-free output? Accuracy. Which input allows same input gives same output? Consistency. What is the ability to work for long hours called diligence? What is the full form of PDA? Personal digital assistance. Which computer fits in pocket size? PDA. Which computer is designed for calculation only? Calculator. Which machines follow programmed instruction automatically? Computer. What is the full form of PCU? Power control unit. Which unit supplies power to motherboard? SMPS. What is the full form of SMPS? Switched mode power supply. Which device converts AC to DC? SMPS. Which components holds expansion cards? Motherboard. Which slot is used for RAM? DIMM slot. Which device connect computer to power source? Power cable. Which computer feature means click response speed? Which computer works on a storage program concept? Digital computer. What is the full form of IBM International Business Machines? What does a computer mainly manipulate? Data. What converts data into information? Processing. Which part interrupts instruction control unit? What is the study of computer called computer science? Which features enables error-free calculation accuracy? Which features means high working rate speed? What is the ability to perform various tasks called versatility? What is the ability to remember information called memory? Which unit stores data and instructions? Memory unit. Which unit communicates with peripheral device? Input output unit. What is the full form of input out I I and O, input output? Which device is also called video monitor? Which printer prints character by character dot matrix? Which printer uses laser technology? Laser printer. Which printer uses ink cartridges, inkjet? Which output is printed on paper? Hard copy. Which output is displayed on a screen? Soft copy. Which device stores data on optical media? CD and DVD. Which media uses laser beam for reading? Optical disc. What is the full form of DVD? Digital versatile disc. Which memory is used during processing? RAM. Which memory contain boot program? ROM. What is the initial program called? Bootstrapped. Which process loads OS into memory? Booting. Which storage is also called auxiliary memory, secondary memory? Which device is used for backup storage? External hard disk. Which memory has highest speed? Register. Which memory is directly accessed by CPU? Register. Which unit holds instruction currently executed? RAM. What type of memory is cache volatile? Which memory reduces access time? Cache. Which computer works in real time system? Digital computer. Which computer is embedded in machines? Embedded computer. Which computer is used in washing machines? Embedded computer. Which features means automation, automatic operation, automation. Which features allow decision making by rules, logical ability? Which unit is responsible for decision making? ALU. Which computer characteristics means reliability, consistency? Which computer size category is largest? Supercomputer. Which computer category is smallest? Microcomputer. Which device provides tactile input? Touch screen. Which device captures handwritten input? Digitizer. What is the full form of CRT? Cathode ray tube. Which display technology is older? CRT. Which device controls cursor movement? Mouse. Which device is used for graphic unit? Joystick. Which unit checks correctness of instruction? Control unit. Which memory is non-volatile? ROM. Which component connects all hardware? Motherboard. Which system performs tasks without human intervention? Automated system. What is the science of automatic machine called? Cybernetics? Which computer features means high accuracy, precision? What is the capability of handling different tasks? Versatility. Which unit stores intermediate result? RAM. Which unit directs data flow inside CPU? Control unit. Which memory is fastest after register? Cache. Which storage uses semiconductor chips? SSD. Which device is used to select command on screen? Mouse. Which key is used to enter commands? Enter. Which device produces graphical output? Monitor. What is the initial skin of computer called? Desktop. Which memory is used to store BIOS? ROM. Which program checks hardware during a startup? Post. What is the full form of post? Power on self test. Which component holds CPU? Motherboard. Which port is used for keyboard? USB. Which port is used to connect monitor? HDMI. Which unit converts user input into machine language? CPU. Which computer characteristics flows dependability, reliability? Which features allow storage of instructions? Memory. Which device is used to record sound? Microphone. Which storage is used for long-term data? Secondary storage. Which computer type is used in hospitals? Mini computer. Which device gives printed text output? Printer. Which input device uses button and stick? Joystick. Which unit organizes processing steps? Control unit. Which memory is erased when power is off? RAM. Which memory retains data without power? ROM. Which device stores data magnetically? Hard disks. Which technology is used in touch screen? Touch technology. Which computer size fits on desk? Desktop. Which device reads barcodes? Barcode reader. Which input device is used in banks for cards? Card reader. Which computer operates on stored programs? Digital computer. Which unit performs logical comparisons? LU. Which units handle external devices? Input output unit. Which features means quick execution speed? Which memory is built inside CPU? Register. Which device converts digital signal to analog for display? Graphics card. Which which unit stores frequently used data? Cache. Which technology uses binary digits? Digital technology. Which computer type is designed for control system? Embedded computer. Which component provides clock pulse? System clock. Which unit synchronize operations? Control unit. Which memory is used for a startup instructions? ROM. Which input device uses light to point light pen? Which output device gives audio result? A speaker. Which computer characteristics means trustworthiness, reliability? Which storage device is removable? Pen drive. Which system performs tasks automatically? Automated system. What is the main purpose of computer? Data processing. Which unit executes instructions? CPU. Which unit decodes instructions? Control unit. Which computer characteristics means accuracy of result? Accuracy. Which characteristics means working without tidiness, diligence? Which computer feature means flexibility of use, versatility? Which computer feature means storing capacity, storage? Which unit provides temporary storage during processing, RAM? Which unit stores permanent instruction, ROM? Which unit performs arithmetic and logical operation, ALU? Which component coordinates all activities, control unit? Which device is used for visual communication, monitor? Which device is used to give instruction by clicking mouse? Which device is used for typing text keyword? Which device produces printed reports, printer? Which output is permanent on paper, hard copy? Which output is temporary on a screen, soft copy? Which storage device uses flash memory, pen drive? Which storage device has fastest access time, SSD? Which computer is designed for multiple users simultaneously, mainframe? Which computer is designed for a very complex calculation, supercomputer? Which computer is designed for general purpose task, microcomputer? Which device stores program and data together, memory? Which unit communicates with external environment, input output unit? Which component houses of the processor, motherboard? Which computer characteristics means dependability, reliability? Which computer characteristics means high speed execution, speed? Which computer characteristics means same output for same input, consistency? Which unit provides timing signal, system clock? Which technology enables user friendly interaction, GUI? Which technology uses command based instruction, CLI? Which device is used to read barcodes, barcode reader? Which device is used for biometric input, fingerprint scanner? Which computer is embedded in automobiles, embedded computer? Which computer supplies power to all parts, SMPS? Which unit checks system health at a startup post? Which memory holds BIOS, ROM? Which process holds operating system into memory, booting? Which storage is called mass storage, secondary storage? Which units handle data input and output, input output unit? Which computer feature means automatic operations, automation? Which computer characteristics means logical thinking, logical ability? Which unit performs decision making, LU? Which device is used to draw graphics directly, digitizer? Which device provides pointing and selection, mouse? Which component store frequently access instruction, cache? Which computer limitation means lack of emotion, no emotion? Which computer limitation means lack of intelligence, no intelligence? Which machine works only on given instruction, computer? Which concept state that program and data are stored together, stored program concept? मेमोरी एंड स्टोरेज 301 क्वेश्चन नंबर से व्हाट इज कंप्यूटर मेमोरी स्टोरेज विच मेमोरी इज यूज फॉर टेम्पोररी स्टोरेज रैम which memory is permanent in nature, ROM? Which memory is volatile, RAM? Which memory is non-volatile, ROM? Which memory is directly accessed by CPU, RAM? Which memory stores booting instructions, ROM? Which memory is fastest, registered? Which memory lies between CPU and ROM, cache? Which memory improves processing speed, cache? Which memory is also called main memory, RAM? Which memory is also called primary memory, RAM? Which memory stores data permanently for long time, secondary memory? Which memory is also called auxiliary memory, secondary memory? Which storage device uses magnetic technology? Hard disk. Which storage device uses flash memory, pen drive? Which storage device has no moving parts, SSD? What is the full form of SSD, solid state drive? What is the full form of HDD, hard disk drive? Which storage device is portable? Pen drive. Which memory stores frequently uses data? Cache. Which memory is inside CPU? Registered. Which unit stores instruction currently being executed? RAM. Which memory is erased when power is off? RAM. Which memory retains data without power? ROM. What is the smallest unit of memory? Bit. How many bits make 1 byte? 8. Which unit is equal to 1024 bytes? Kilobyte. Which unit is equal to 1024 KB? Megabyte. Which unit is equal to 1024 MB? Gigabyte. Which unit is equal to 1024 GB? Terabyte. Which memory is costlier per bit? Register. Which memory has lowest speed? Secondary memory. Which storage device is optical? CD and DVD. Which optical disk stores more data? DVD. What is the full form of CD? Compact disc. Which storage device is used for backup? External hard disks. Which memory supports read and write operation? RAM. Which memory supports only read operation? ROM. Which memory is used in a smartphone? Flash memory. Which storage device is smallest in size? Pen drive. Which memory is faster than RAM? Cache. Which memory is also called high speed memory? Cache. Which memory stores BIOS? ROM. Which storage device is used in laptop mostly? SSD. Which memory increases computer performance? Cache. Which memory has limited capacity but highest speed? Register. Which memory is used to store OS temporarily? RAM. Which storage device is removable? Pen drive. Which memory is essential for system operation? RAM. Which memory is directly connected to CPU? Register. Which memory stores frequently accessed instruction? Cache. Which memory reduces access time of data? Cache. Which memory is slower than RAM? Secondary memory. Which memory is also called external memory? Secondary memory. Which storage device uses platter? Hard disk. Which storage device uses semiconductor memory? SSD. Which storage device is shock resistance? SSD. Which memory is cheapest per bit? Secondary memory. Which memory is costliest per bit? Register. Which memory is used to store application programs permanently? Secondary memory. Which storage device uses laser technology? Optical disk. Which optical disk can be written only on CDR? Which optical disk can be rewritten? CDRW. Which storage device is used in digital cameras? Memory card. Which memory card is commonly used in a smartphones? Micro SD. Which storage device is used in ATMs? Hard disk. Which memory supports random access? RAM. Which memory doesn't support random access? Sequential memory. Which storage device is sequential access? Magnetic tape. Which storage device is used for archival purpose? Magnetic tape. Which memory is used for system cache? SRAM. What is the full form of SRAM? Static random access memory. Which memory is faster, SRAM or DRAM? SRAM is faster. What is the full form of DRAM? Dynamic random access memory. Which memory needs refreshing? DRAM. Which memory does not need refreshing? SRAM. Which storage device is used in cloud storage physically? Data center hard disk. Which unit measures memory access time? Nanosecond. Which unit measures secondary storage speed? Millisecond. Which memory is used in graphic cards? VRAM. What is the full form of VRAM? Video random access memory. Which memory stores display data? VRAM. Which storage device uses USB interface? Pen drive. Which memory type is EEPROM? Non-volatile. What is the full form of EEPROM? Electrically erasable programmable ROM. Which memory can be erased electrically? EEPROM. Which storage device is used for OS installation? Hard disk SSD. Which memory is used in BIOS chip? ROM. Which memory is programmable on PROM? What is the full form of PROM? Programmable read-only memory. Which memory can be erased by UV light? EPROM. What is the full form of EPROM? Erasable programmable read-only memory. Which storage device is used for video recording? Memory card. Which memory is faster, ROM or RAM? RAM is faster. Which memory stores firmware? ROM. Which storage device is used for data transfer between computers? Pen drive. Which memory hierarchy level is largest in size? Secondary storage. Which memory hierarchy level is smallest in size? Register. Which memory hierarchy level is fastest? Register. Which memory stores operating system files permanently? Secondary storage. Which memory is used to load OS at a startup? RAM. Which storage device is faster? HDD or SSD? SSD. Which storage device is cheaper per GB? HDD. Which memory is read only in nature? ROM. Which memory can be both read and write? RAM. Which memory is erased on power failure? RAM. Which memory keeps data safe during power failure? ROM. Which memory supports cache mechanism? SRAM. Which memory is used as CPU cache? SRAM. Which storage device uses NAND flash? SSD. Which memory card is used in DSLR cameras? SD card. Which storage device is used in tablets, flash storage? Which memory is organized in memory cells, RAM? Which memory cells stores 1 bit of data, flip-flop? Which memory is slower but cheaper, secondary memory? Which memory is faster but costlier, primary memory? Which storage device uses SATA interface, hard disk? Which interface is commonly used for SSDs today, NVMe? Which unit measures storage capacity, bytes? Which memory hierarchy level is nearest to CPU? Register. Which memory hierarchy level is farthest from CPU? Secondary storage. Which memory requires constant power to retain data? RAM. Which storage device is used for disaster recovery? Magnetic tape. Which memory is organized in rows and column? RAM. Which storage technology is used in USB drives? Flash memory. Which memory is used for fast buffering? Cache. Which memory temporarily holds instruction and data? RAM. Which storage device is suitable for large data center? Hard disk. Which memory technology is used in BIOS chip? EEPROM. Which memory can be updated without removing chip? EEPROM. Which memory supports firmware updates? Flash memory. Which storage device is best for portability? Pen drive. Which memory type is used in IoT devices? Flash memory. Which memory unit is larger, MB or GB? GB. Which memory unit is the smallest, KB or MB? KB. Which storage device is suitable for multimedia files? Hard disk. Which memory is optimized for graphics processing? VRAM. Which memory stores frame buffer? VRAM. Which storage device has the longest lifespan? Magnetic tape. Which memory is used to speed up disk access? Cache. Which memory stores directory information? Secondary storage. Which storage device is used in servers, hard disk or SSD? Which memory is used to hold kernel temporarily, RAM? Which memory type is battery backed, CMOS? Which memory stores system configuration setting, CMOS? Which memory is used to store date and time, CMOS? Which memory is cleared when CMOS battery is removed, CMOS? Which memory is best for frequent read write operations, SSD? Which memory ensure quick system boot, SSD. Which memory is used to store cache line, SRAM? Which memory technology is used in L1 cache, SRAM? Which cache level is fastest, L1 cache? Which cache level is largest in size, L3 cache? Which memory improves CPU through output, cache? Which storage device is best for OS installation, SSD? Which memory type is used in pen drive, flash memory? Which storage device uses non-cells SSD? Which memory is rewritten many times? Flash memory. Which memory is used in USB flash drives? Flash memory. Which memory type is faster? DRAM or SRAM? SRAM. Which memory type is cheaper? DRAM or SRAM? DRAM. Which memory is used as a main temporary in computers? DRAM. Which memory needs periodic refreshing? DRAM. Which memory store BIOS configuration? CMOS. Which memory is battery powered, CMOS? Which memory is clear when BIOS is reset, CMOS? Which storage device is suitable for long term backup, magnetic tape? Which storage technology is used in Blu-ray discs, optical storage? Which optical disc has highest capacity, Blu-ray disc? Which memory is used to store system locks temporarily, RAM? Which storage device uses M.2 interface, SSD? Which memory type is used in NVMe SSDs, NAND flash? Which storage device offers highest IOPS, SSD? Which memory unit is equal to 1024 TB petabyte? Which memory unit comes after petabyte, exabyte? Which storage device is commonly used in data warehouses? Hard disk. Which memory is used for fast data buffering? Cache. Which memory stores frequently used OS components? RAM. Which storage device is best for gaming performance? SSD. Which memory hierarchy level balance speed and cost? Cache. Which memory is optimized for low power devices? Flash memory. Which storage device is used for firmware storage? ROM. Which memory supports wear leveling? Flash memory. Which storage device is commonly used in servers and RAID? Hard disk SSD. Which memory type is used in embedded systems? Flash memory. Which storage device has lowest latency? SSD. Which memory is organized in pages? Virtual memory. Which storage technique uses disk space as RAM? Virtual memory. Which memory management technique reduces RAM requirement? Virtual memory. Which storage device stores swap files, hard disks, or SSD? Which memory allows multitasking efficiency? Virtual memory. Which memory is used to store page tables? RAM. Which storage is faster for random access? SSD. Which memory unit equals 1024 PV? Exabyte. Which memory is used to store temporary browser cache? RAM. Which storage device is best for archival data? Magnetic tape. Which memory type is most energy efficient? Flash memory. Which storage device is commonly used in portable SSDs? NVMe SSD. Which memory improves application loading time? SSD. Which memory stores temporary system files? RAM. Which storage device is used for paging? Hard disk or SSD? Which memory technique divides memory into fixed size blocks? Paging. Which memory technique divides memory into variable size blocks? Segmentation. Which memory uses page replacement algorithms? Virtual memory. Which algorithm replaces the least recently uses page? LRU. Which algorithm replaces the first loaded page? FIFO. Which algorithm replaces the page that will not be used for longest time? Optimal. Which memory fault occurs when page is not in RAM? Page fault. Which storage device contains page file? Hard disk or SSD? Which memory supports multitasking? Virtual memory. Which memory technique reduces fragmentation? Paging. Which fragmentation occur in paging? Internal fragmentation. Which fragmentation occur in segmentation? External fragmentation. Which memory technique combines paging and segmentation? Segmented paging. Which memory address is generated by CPU? Logical address. Which memory address is actual location in RAM? Physical address. Which unit converts logical address to physical address? MMU. What is the full form of MMU? Memory Management Unit. Which memory structure stores mapping information? Page table. Which memory table stores segmentation information? Segment table. Which memory technique uses page tablet? Paging. Which memory technique uses segment table? Segmentation. Which memory mechanism speeds up address translation? TLB. What is the full form of TLB? Translation look aside buffer. Which memory component is a special cache for page tables? TLB. Which memory technique causes page fault? Virtual memory. Which memory technique improves memory utilization? Virtual memory. Which storage device is used as a swap space? Hard disk or SSD? Which memory unit equals 1024 exabytes? Zettabyte. Which memory unit comes after zettabyte? Yottabyte. Which memory is used to store temporary compiler data? RAM. Which storage device is used for version backup? Hard disk. Which memory is used for buffering input output operations? RAM. Which storage device is best for sequential access? Magnetic tape. Which memory type is used in router? Flash memory. Which memory stores routing tables? RAM. Which storage device is used for firmware update? Flash memory. Which memory is organized in frames? Physical memory. Which memory structure maps pages to frames? Page table. Which storage device is used in NAS system? Hard disk SSD. Which memory technique uses swapping? Virtual memory. Which storage device is best for cold storage? Magnetic tape. Which memory is clear on system restart? RAM. Which memory holds running processes? RAM. Which storage device is best for large backups? Magnetic tape. Which memory unit equals 1024 zettabyte? Yottabyte. Which memory stores temporary database cache? RAM. Which storage device is suitable for cloud servers? SSD or HDD? Which memory technique allows programs larger than RAM? Virtual memory. Which memory is used to store running applications? RAM. Which storage device is used for system image backup? External hard disk. Which memory technique allows demand loading? Virtual memory. Which page replacement algorithm is simplest? FIFO. Which algorithm uses future knowledge optimal? Which algorithm consider recent usage history LRU? Which memory faults increases disk input output page fault? Which memory is organized into pages virtual memory? Which memory is organized into frames physical memory? Which storage device is used to store swap space hard disks or SSD? Which memory technique minimizes external fragmentation paging? Which memory technique eliminates internal fragmentation segmentation? Which table stores frame number for pages? Page table. Which table stores base and limit for segment table? Which hardware supports address translation? MMU. Which cache store recent page table entries? TLB. Which memory management policy decides page replacement? Page replacement policy. Which condition occur when system spends more time swapping, thrashing? Which memory technique causes thrashing if misused? Virtual memory. Which parameter measure page fault frequency? Page fault rate. Which memory structure stores page fault information? Page table. Which storage device is used for cold backup in enterprises? Magnetic tape. Which memory type is used for fast lookup tables? Cache. Which storage device provides high durability? Magnetic tape. Which memory unit equals 1024 yottabytes brontobyte? Which memory is used to store metadata temporarily? RAM. Which storage device is suitable for edge computing nodes? SSD. Which memory improves system responsiveness? Cache. Which storage device is commonly used in laptops today? SSD. Which memory type is used for temporary locks? RAM. Which memory technique supports overcommitment? Virtual temporal memory. Which storage device is best for write owns data? WOM. Which memory type is WOM? Optical memory. Which memory is optimized for read heavy workloads? ROM. Which storage device supports snapshots efficiently? SSD. Which memory is used for process control blocks? RAM. Which storage device is suitable for virtual machines? SSD. Which memory unit equals 1024 brontobytes? Geobyte. Which memory type stores system state temporarily? RAM. Which storage device is best for fast boot system? SSD. Which memory is used to cache database queries? RAM. Which storage device is suitable for long archives? Magnetic tape. Which memory management technique uses demand paging? Virtual memory. Which memory improves multitasking performance? RAM. Which storage device is most suitable for AI workloads? SSD. Which memory stores session data temporarily? RAM. Which storage device is used in a high performance computing clusters? SSD. Which memory is used for temporary rendering data? RAM. Which storage device supports parallel access efficiently? SSD. Which memory technique provides illusion of large memory? Virtual memory. Which memory stores kernel data structure? RAM. Which storage device is best for continuous data writing? SSD. Which memory is used for fast indexing? Cache. Which storage device is used for compliance archiving? Magnetic tape. Which memory is optimized for low latency access? Register. Which memory stores execution context temporarily? RAM. Which storage device is suitable for transactional system? SSD. Which temporary improves cache hit ratio? Cache. Which storage device is used for cold disaster recovery? Magnetic tape. Which memory is used to store runtime variables? RAM. Which storage device supports high write endurance? Enterprises SSD. Which memory is clear during system shutdown? RAM. Which storage device is best for time series data? SSD. Which memory is used to store stack data? RAM. Which storage device is used for long-term digital preservation? Magnetic tape. Which memory supports fastest instruction fetch? Cache. Which storage device is suitable for analytics workload? SSD. Which memory is used to store heap data? RAM, which storage device is used in enterprise backup libraries, magnetic tape, which memory technique completes memory abstraction, virtual memory, operating system. Question number 6 to 1 say, what is an operating system? System software. Which software acts as an interface between user and hardware? Operating system. Which operating system is developed by Microsoft Windows? Which OS is open source? Linux. Which OS is used in Apple computer? macOS. Which OS is used in smartphones? Android. Which OS manages computer hardware? Operating system. Which OS is an example of multi-user OS? Unix. Which OS supports multitasking? Windows. Which OS supports multiprocessing? Linux. Which OS executes program one at a time? Single tasking OS. Which OS executes multiple programs simultaneously? Multitasking OS. Which OS allow multiple user at the same time? Multi-user OS. Which OS is used in real-time system? RTOS. What is the full form of RTOS OS? Real-time operating system. Which OS is used in embedded system? RTOS. Which OS is used in server? Linux. Which OS controls memory management? Operating system. Which OS controls processing scheduling? Operating system. Which OS feature allocates CPU time scheduling? Which OS component manages files? File system. Which OS components manage memory manager? Which OS component manages process manager? Which OS components handles input output devices? Input output manager. Which OS loads first when computer starts? Operating system. What is the process of starting OS called booting? Which memory leads OS into memory? Bootstrap loader. Which memory stores bootstrap program? ROM. Which OS feature protects system resources security? Which OS feature manage user access authentication? Which OS supports graphical interface? Windows. Which OS uses command line interface? Unix. Which OS file system is used by Windows? NTFS. Which OS file system is used by Linux? ext4. Which OS supports virtual memory? Linux. Which OS handles deadlock management? Operating system. Which OS feature avoids deadlock prevention? Which OS feature detects deadlock detection? Which OS type is used in ATMs? RTOS. Which OS schedules jobs in batch processing? Batch operating system. Which OS is used in mainframe computer? Unix. Which OS is used in supercomputers? Linux. Which OS supports time sharing? Time sharing OS. Which OS allocates time slices to process? Time sharing OS. Which OS supports job scheduling? Batch OS. Which OS supports resource allocation? Operating system. Which OS controls hardware interrupts? Operating system. Which OS provides device drivers? Operating system. Which OS manages disk scheduling? Operating system. Which OS ensures fairness in CPU usage? Time sharing OS. Which OS component handles CPU scheduling? Scheduler. Which scheduling algorithm executed first come process first? FCFS. What is the full form of FCFS? First come first serve. Which scheduling algorithm gives minimum average waiting time? SJF. What is the full form of SJF? Shortest job first. Which scheduling algorithm uses time quantum round robin? Which scheduling algorithm is primitive round robin? What is the full form of RR? Round robin. Which scheduling algorithm is non-primitive? FCFC. Which OS concept deals with execution of programs? Process. What is a process? Program in execution? Which OS structure stores process information? PCB. What is the full form of PCB? Process control block. PCB. Which PCB field stores process state? Process state. Which PCB field stores CPU register information? Which OS concept allow multiple processes, multiple programming? Which OS technique improves CPU utilization, multi-programming? Which OS state means process is ready to execute, ready state? Which OS state means process is currently executing, running state? Which OS state means process is waiting for input output, waiting state? Which OS state means process has finished execution, terminated state. Which OS concept creates a new process, process creation. Which OS call terminates the process, exit. Which OS concept allow communication between processes, IPS. What is the full form of IPS? Can you guess? Inter-process communication. Which IPS method uses is shared memory, shared memory. Which IPS method uses message passing, message passing. Which OS problem occurs when processes wait forever, deadlock. Which deadlock condition requires circular waiting, circular wait. Which deadlock condition requires exclusive resource use, mutual exclusion? Which deadlock condition holds resources while waiting, hold and wait? Which deadlock condition means no force release, no preemption? Which OS technique avoid deadlock, deadlock avoidance? Which algorithm is used for deadlock avoidance? Banker's algorithm. Who proposed Banker's algorithm? Dijkstra. Which OS technique ignores deadlock, ostrich approach? Which OS technique detect deadlock after occurrence? Deadlock lock detection. Which OS resource can cause deadlock? CPU. Which OS resource is non-primitive? Printer. Which OS concepts manage concurrent execution? Concurrency. Which OS problem occur due to improper synchronization race condition? Which OS mechanism ensures synchronization? Semaphore. What is the full form of CPU? Central Processing Unit. ये तो सबको पता होगा CPU का full form. Which OS concept controls critical section assess mutual exclusion? Which OS primitive is used in semaphore, wait and single? Which OS mechanism locks shared resources, mutex? Which OS supports multi-threading, Linux? Which OS concept divides process into threads, multi-threading? Which thread shares process resources, user thread? Which OS feature improves responsiveness, multi-threading? What is a thread? Lightweight process. Which thread is managed by OS kernel, kernel thread? Which thread is managed by user level library, user thread? Which model maps many user thread to one kernel thread, many to one? Which model maps one user thread to one kernel thread, one to one? Which model maps many user thread to many kernel thread, many to many? Which thread model is used by Linux, one to one? Which thread model blocks all thread on system call, many to one? Which thread model provides true parallelism, one to one? Which OS concepts manages thread management? Which OS structure stores thread information, TCB? What is the full form of TCB? Thread control block. Which scheduling is applied to thread CPU scheduling? Which OS of problem occurs when low priority blocks high priority inversion? Which OS technique solve priority inversion, priority inheritance? Which OS concept manages main memory management? Which memory allocation method uses fixed partitions, fixed partitioning? Which memory allocation method uses variable partitions, dynamic partitioning? Which allocation strategy uses first free block, first fit? Which allocation strategy uses smallest sufficient block, best fit? Which allocation strategy uses largest block, worst fit? Which memory allocation strategy minimizes leftover space, best fit? Which memory problem occur due to variable partitions, external fragmentation? Which technique removes external fragmentation, compaction? Which memory technique shifts processes in memory compaction? Which memory technique loads only needed page, demand paging? Which OS fault occur if page is absent in memory, page fault? Which memory management structure stores page status, page table? Which bit indicates page is modified, dirty bit? Which bit indicates page is recently used, reference bit? Which OS component manages secondary storage, file system? Which OS concept organizes data into files, file management? Which OS structure stores file metadata, inode? Which file system concept stores file permissions, inode? Which file system is used in Unix, UFC? Which file system supports journaling in Linux ext4? Which file system is used in Windows by default? NTFS. Which file system supports large files? NTFS. Which OS concept provides hierarchical file structure? Directory. Which directory contains user files? Home directory. Which directory is root of file system? Root directory. Which file system structure stored directly in trace directory table? Which OS supports file locking? Linux. Which OS ensure file protection? Operating system. Which OS mechanism controls file access control? Which file access method reads file sequentially? Sequential access. Which file access method read file randomly? Direct access. Which file allocation method uses linked lists? Linked allocation. Which file allocation method uses contiguous blocks? Contiguous allocation. Which file allocation method uses index block? Index allocation. Which file allocation method avoids external fragmentation? Index allocation. Which file allocation method is fastest for sequential access? Contiguous allocation. Which OS structure stores free disk blocks? Free space list. Which free space management technique uses bit vector, bitmap? Which OS concept manage disk space, disk management? Which OS algorithm decides order of disk access, disk scheduling? Which disk scheduling algorithm service request in order? FCFC. Which disk scheduling algorithm reduces seek time? SSTF. What is the full form of SSTF? Shortest seek time first. Which disk scheduling algorithm moves head in one direction only? A scan. Which disk scheduling algorithm is also called elevator algorithm? Scan. Which disk scheduling algorithm is circular scan? CS scan. Which disk scheduling algorithm service ind then reverses a scan? Which disk scheduling algorithm provides uniform wait time? C scan. Which disk scheduling algorithm scan one direction then jumps back? C scan. Which disk scheduling algorithm is improved? Scan look. Which disk scheduling algorithm is circular look? C look. Which OS concept manage input output devices? Input output management. Which OS component controls device communication? Device driver. Which OS software translate OS command to hardware signals? Device driver. Which OS mechanism improves input output performance? Buffering. Which OS technique uses main memory to hold input output data temporarily? Buffering. Which OS technique overlaps input, output, and CPU operations? Spooling. What is the full form of a spool? Simultaneous peripheral operations online. Which OS concept uses disk as buffer? Spooling. Which OS technique reduces CPU idle time? Spooling. Which OS mechanism temporarily store input-output data? Buffer. Which OS mechanism uses queue for input-output request? I input-output queue. Which OS technique allows asynchronous input-output interrupts? Which OS concept signals CPU about input-output completion? Interrupt. Which OS mechanism allow direct memory access? DMA. What is the full form of DMA? Direct memory access. Which OS component manages DMA operations? DMA controller. Which OS technique bypasses CPU for data transfer? DMA. Which OS mechanism increases input output throughput? DMA. Which OS concept manages system protection? Which OS feature prevents unauthorized access? Security. Which OS mechanism verifies user identity authentication? Which OS mechanism controls user permission authorization? Which OS attacks flood system resource? OS attack flood system resource denial of service. Which OS attack pretends to be a legitimate user spoofing? Which OS attack captures network packets sniffing? Which OS concept ensure data confidentially encryption? Which OS concept ensures data integrity? Which OS concept ensures system availability? Which OS security model is CIA tried confidentiality, integrity, and availability? Which OS mechanism logs system events auditing? Which OS mechanism monitors resource usage? accounting. Which OS concept ensure fairness among users? Scheduling. Which OS feature supports system reliability? Fault tolerance. Which OS feature allows system recovery after failure? Fault recovery. Which OS technique keeps system running despite failures? Fault tolerance. Which OS mechanism saves system state periodically? Checkpointing. Which OS concept restarts system from last checkpoint? Rollback recovery. Which OS mechanism detects hardware errors? Error detection. Which OS mechanism corrects detected error automatically? Error correction. Which OS features ensures data consistency after crash? Journaling. Which file system uses journaling ext4? Which OS concept manage distributed resources? Distributed OS. Which OS runs on multiple computer connected by network? Distributed OS. Which OS provides transparent resource sharing? Distributed OS. Which OS is designed for network service? Network OS. Which OS example is Windows Server? Network OS. Which OS allows remote login? Network OS. Which OS concept supports load balancing? Distributed OS. Which OS is designed for mobile devices? Mobile OS. Which mobile OS is developed by Google? Android. Which mobile OS is developed by Apple iOS? Which OS supports touch-based interface? Mobile OS. Which OS device power efficiently in device? Mobile OS. Which OS feature controls battery usage? Power management. Which OS schedules tasks to save power? Mobile OS. Which OS concept manages energy consumptions? Power management. Which OS supports sandboxing for apps? Android. Which OS feature isolates applications? Sandboxing. Which OS concept ensures application security, application isolation? Which OS uses permission for app access? Android. Which OS feature restricts unauthorized app behavior? Security policy. Which OS concept support virtualization? Hypervisor. Which OS layer runs virtually machines? Hypervisor. Which hypervisor runs directly on hardware? Type 1 hypervisor. Which hypervisor runs on host OS? Type 2 hypervisor. Which OS technology allows multiple OS on one machine? Virtualization. Which OS feature improves resource utilization in virtualization? Resource sharing. Which OS concept support content containerization? OS level virtualization. Which OS technology is used by Docker containerization? Which OS feature isolate containers? Namespace. Which OS feature controls container resource? C groups. Which OS supports cloud computing infrastructure? Linux. Which OS feature supports scalability? Distributed processing. Which OS concepts allow elastic resource allocation? Cloud OS. Which OS is used in cloud servers? Linux. Which OS features ensure high availability? Failover. Which OS mechanisms uses to backup system automatically? Failover. Which OS concept reduces downtime? High availability. Which OS feature supports system monitoring? Which OS tool track performance metrics? Performance monitor. Which OS system helps in capacity planning? Resource monitoring. Which OS mechanism records system activities? Logging. Which OS concept completes system management? System administration. Which OS concept manages user accounts? User management. Which OS features assigns user privileges? Authorization. Which OS mechanism verifies login credential authentication? Which OS concept separates user from each other? User isolation. Which OS supports role-based access control? Linux. Which OS file stores user password hashes /etc/shadow? Which OS file stores user account details /etc/password? Which OS command is used to add a new user add? Which OS command is used to delete a user del? Which OS command changes file permission? chmod? See which OS command change file ownership? chown? Which OS permission allows file execution? Execute.
execute. Which OS permission allow file modification? Write. Which OS permission allows file viewing? Read. Which OS concept groups user together? Group management. Which OS files stores group information /etc/group? Which OS command displays disk usage df? Which OS command display directly size du? Which OS command monitors running processes top? Which OS command shadows process id ps? Which OS command terminates a process kill? Which OS signal forcefully terminates process cig kill? Which OS command shuts down system immediately shut down? Which OS command reboot system reboot? Which OS concept manage system startup services init system? Which init system is used in modern Linux system? And which OS concept manage background service daemon? Which OS service runs continuously in background daemon? Which OS concept schedules system job scheduling? Which OS command schedules task at a fixed time cron? Which OS file stores cron jobs cron tab? Which OS concept manage system time management? Which OS command displays current date and time date? Which OS concept handles software into installation package management? Which package manager is using Ubuntu apt? Which package manager is used in Red Hat Linux yum? Which OS concept manage updates and patch management? Which OS feature improves system stability regular update? Which OS concept manage hardware abstraction hull? What is the full form of HAL? Hardware abstractions layer. Which OS concept ensures portability? Hardware abstraction. Which OS feature supports backward compatibility mode? Which OS concept manage system configuration file configuration management? Which OS directly store configuration file in Linux/etc? Which OS concept ensures system maintainability system administration? Which OS role manages user and permission system administrator? Which OS feature records security events auditing? Which OS mechanism helps in forensic analysis logs? Which OS concept ensures compilation policy information enforcement? Which OS concept completes operating system study? OS administration. Into one same. What is a computer network? Interconnection of computers. What is the main purpose of a network? Resource sharing. Which device connects computer in a network? Switch. Which device connects different networks? Router. Which device broadcasts data to all nodes? Hub. What is LAN? Local area network. Local area network. Which network covers a small area? LAN. What is MAN? Metropolitan area network. Which network covers a city? MAN. What is WAN? Wide area network. Which network covers large geographical area? WAN. Which is the largest network in the world? Internet. What is Internet network of networks? Which protocol is used to browse websites? HTTP. What is the full form of HTTP? Hypertext Transfer Protocol. ये तो सबको पता होगा. Which protocol provides secure web browsing? HTTPS. HTTPS. What is the full form of HTTPS? Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secured. Which protocol is used for file transfer? FTP. What is the full form of FTP? File Transfer Protocol. Which protocol is used for sending emails? SMTP. What is the full form of SMTP? Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Which protocol is used to receive emails? POP3. What is the full form of POP? Post Office Protocol. Which protocol allows accessing email from server? IMAP. What is the full form of IMAP? Internet Message Access Protocol. What is IP address? Unique network address. What is the full form of IP? Internet Protocol. Which IP version uses 32-bit address? IPv4. Which IP version uses 128-bit address? IPv6. Which address identifies a device or network? IP address. What is MAC address? Physical address.
Which address is assigned by manufacturer? MAC address. What is the full form of MAC? Media Access Control. Which network topology connects all nodes to central device? A star topology. Which topology uses single backbone cable? Bus topology. Which topology forms a closed loop? Ring topology. Which topology is most reliable? Mesh topology. Which topology is costliest? Mesh topology. Which topology is easiest to install? Bus topology. What is network protocol? Set of rules. Which protocol is connection oriented? TCP. Which protocol is connectionless? UDP. What is the full form of TCP? Transmission Control Protocol. What is the full form of UDP? User Datagram Protocol. Which protocol ensure reliable data delivery? TCP. Which protocol is faster but unreliable? UDTP. UDP. Which device filters traffic by IP address? Firewall. What is firewall? Network security device. Which network attacked flood traffic? DOS attack. What is the full form of DOS? Denial of service. Which device connects LAN to internet? Router. Which device works at network layer? Router. Which device works at data link layer? Switch. Which OSI layer is responsible for end-to-end communication? Transport layer. Which OSI layer provides logical addressing? Network layer. Which OSI layer provides physical transmission? Physical layer. Which OSI layer ensures error detection? Data link layer. Which OSI layer handles inscriptions? Presentation layer. Which OSI layer manages sessions? Sessions layer. Which OSI layer interacts with user? Application layer. How many layers are there in OSI model 7? What is the full form of OSI? Open System Interconnection. Which OSI layer provides framing? Data link layer. Which OSI layer performs routing? Network layer. Which OSI layer provides flow control? Transport layer. Which OSI layer breaks data into segments? Transport layer. Which OSI layer breaks data into frames? Data link layer. Which OSI layer breaks data into bits? Physical layer. Which protocol works at application layer? HTTP. HTTP का तो फुल फॉर्म याद हो गया होगा. Which protocol works at transport layer? TCP. Which protocol works at network layer? IP. Which protocol works at data link layer? ARP. What is the full form of ARP? Address Resolution Protocol. ये जरूर से याद करिएगा क्योंकि एग्जाम में बहुत बार पूछा जाता है. Which protocol converts IP to MAC? ARP. Which protocol converts MAC to IP? RARP. What is the full form RARP? ये भी पूछा जाता है, याद कर लीजिएगा. अभी तुरंत याद करिए. रिवर्स एड्रेस रिजोल्यूशन प्रोटोकॉल. फिर से पढ़िए. रिवर्स एड्रेस रिजोल्यूशन प्रोटोकॉल. Which network uses wireless communication? VLAN. What is the full form of VLAN? Wireless Local Area Network. Which device provides Wi-Fi connectivity? SS point. बाद के लिए मत छोड़िए, तुरंत याद करते जाइए कि आपको दिमाग में बैठ जाए, फिर दोबारा भूलिएगा भी नहीं. Which network standard is used for Wi-Fi? IEEE 802.11. Internet and www. From question number 1001. What is Internet? Network of networks. Who is known as the father of Internet? Windsurf. What is www? World Wide Web. Who invented World Wide Web? Tim Berners-Lee. What is a website? Collection of web pages. What is web page? HTML document. Which language is used to create web pages? HTML. What is the full form of HTML? Hypertext Markup Language. Which protocol is used to access website? HTTP. Which secure protocol is used on internet? HTTPS. What is URL? Address of website. What is the full form of URL? Uniform Resource Locator. Which software is used to browse internet? Web browser. Which is an example of web browser? Google Chrome. Which browser is developed by Google Chrome? Which browser is developed by Microsoft Edge? Which browser is open source? Firefox. What is ISP? Internet Service Provider. What is the role of ISP? Provide internet access. Which is an example of ISP in India? BSNL. What is bandwidth? Data transfer capacity. What is the unit of bandwidth? VPS. What is upload? Sending data to server. What is download? Receiving data from server. What is email? Electronic mail. Which protocol is used to send email? SMTP. Which protocol is used to receive email? POP3.
Which email protocol keeps mail on server IMAP? What is a spam mail? Unwanted emails. What is phishing? Online fraud. What is a search engine? Web searching tool. Which is the most popular search engine? Google. What is keyword? Search word. What is hyperlink? Clickable link. Which protocol is used for chatting? IRC. What is cloud computing? Internet-based computing. Which cloud service stores file online? Cloud storage. Which is an example of cloud storage? Google Drive. Google Drive. What is social networking? Online social interaction. Which is a social networking site? Facebook. What is e-commerce? Online buying and selling. Which is an example of e-commerce site? Amazon. What is digital payment? Cashless payment. Which is a digital payment method? UPI. What is cybercrime? Internet-based crime. What is antivirus security software? What is firewall? Network security system. What is online banking? Internet banking. What is video conferencing? Online video meeting. Which app is used for video conferencing? Zoom. What is web hosting? Website storage service. What is domain name? Website name. Which organizations manages domain names? ICANN. What is the full form of ICANN? Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. What is DNS? Domain Name System. What is the function of DNS? Converts domain to IP. Which protocol resolves domain names? DNS. What is IP spoofing? Fake IP usage. What is cookie? Small data file. What is the use of cookie? Store user information. What is cache? Temporary storage. What is web cache? Used for faster page loading. What is blog? Online article. What is blogging? Video blogging. What is podcast? Audio program. What is streaming? Live media delivery. Which platform is used for video streaming? YouTube. What is OTT? Online media service. What is the full form of OTT? Over the top. Which is an OTT platform? Netflix. What is VPN? Secure network tunnel. What is the full form of VPN? Virtual private network. What is incognito mode? Private browsing. What is dark web? Hidden internet. Which browser is used to access dark web? Tor browser. What is URL? Shorten link shortening service. What is QR code? Quick response code. What is use of QR code? Fast information access. What is chatbot? Automated chat program. What is AI chatbot? Intelligent virtual assistant. What is e-learning? Online education. Which platform is used for e-learning? Coursera. What is MOOC? Online course. What is the full form of MOOC? Massive Open Online Course. What is digital signature? Electronic authentication. What is cyber security? Protection of digital data. What is malware? Malicious software. What is ransomware? Data locking malware. What is spyware? Data spying software. What is Trojan disguised malware? What is two-factor authentication? Double security method. What is CAPTCHA? Human verification test. What is the full form of CAPTCHA? Completely automated public Turing test. What is online shopping? Internet purchasing. What is digital marketing? Online promotion. What is SEO? Search optimization. What is the full form of SEO? Search engine optimization. What is social media marketing? Promotion on social media. What is influencer marketing? Promotion by influencer. What is affiliate marketing? Commission based marketing. What is web server? Website hosting computer. Which software is used as a web server? Apache. What is client in networking? Service requester. What is server in networking? Service provider. What is client server model? Request response model. What is peer to peer network? Equal mode network. Which network model has no central server? Peer to peer. What is intranet? Private internet, internal network. What is extranet? Extended intranet. What is neticute? Internet etiquette. What is FTP? Used for file transfer. What is telnet? Remote login protocol. What is VoIP? Internet calling. What is full form of VoIP? Voice over Internet Protocol. What is bandwidth measured in VPS? What is latency? Network delay. What is packet data unit? What is packet switching? Data transfer method, transmission method. What is browser cache? Temporary website data. What is cookie used for user tracking? What is home page, main web page? What is favicon website icon? What is SSL security protocol? What is the full form of SSL secure sockets layer? What is TLS secure communication protocol? What is the full form of TLS transfer layer security? What is online form data collection page? What is CAPTCHAs used for bot prevention? What is URL bar address bar? What is web portal information gateway? What is government portal e-government's website? What is e-governance? Digital governance. What is DigiLocker? Digital document storage. What is Umang app? Government service app.
What is Aadhaar authentication, identity verification? What is online examination, internet based test? What is plagiarism, content copying? What is copyright, legal ownership? What is Creative Commons open license? What is open source software, free source code software? What is freeware, free software? What is shareware, trial software? What is malware attack, harmful software attack? What is data breach, data leakage? What is backup, data copy? What is cloud backup, online data backup? What is control, change tracking? What is Git version control system? What is GitHub code hosting platform? What is open data, publicly available data? What is web analytics, website data analysis? Which tool is used for web analytics, Google Analytics? What is the bounce rate, single page visit rate? What is page view, page visit count? What is CTR, click through rate? What is the full form of CTR, click through rate? What is impression, ad display count? What is digital footprint, online activity trace? What is online reputation, internet image? What is influencer, online opinion leader? What is hashtags, topic marker? What is trending hashtag, popular topic tag? What is content marketing, content based promotion? What is newsletter, email update? What is email marketing, promotion via email? What is unsubscribe, stop email service? What is webinar, online seminar? What is virtual classroom, online teaching room? What is LMS, learning platform? What is the full form of LMS, learning management system? What is CMS, website management system? What is the full form of CMS, content management system? Which CMS is widely used? WordPress. What is plugin, software adds on? What is theme in website design template? What is responsive design, skin adaptive design? What is mobile friendly website, mobile optimized site? What is QR payment, scan based payment? What is UPI, full form, unified payment interface? What is net banking, online banking service? What is OTP, one time password? What is the use of OTP, user verification? What is the biometric authentication, body based verification? What is fingerprint authentication, finger based security? What is race recognition, face based identification? What is two-step verification, double security process? What is cyber law, internet law? Which act governs cyber law in India? It Act. IT Act 2000. What is IT Act 2000? Cyber Law Act. What is data privacy, data protection? What is personal data, individual information? What is data encryption, data encoding? What is cyber ethics, online moral rules? What is digital divide, technology gap? What is e-waste, electronic waste? What is green computing, eco-friendly computing? What is online collaboration, internet teamwork? What is shared document, collaborative file? What is cloud document, online document? What is digital literacy, technology awareness? What is cloud computing model, IaaS, infrastructure as a service? What is cloud computing model, PaaS, platform as a service? What is cloud computing model, SaaS, software as a service? Which cloud model provide virtual machine, IaaS? Which cloud model provides ready software, SaaS? Which cloud model is used by developer, PaaS? What is public cloud, shared cloud service? What is private cloud, dedicated cloud? What is hybrid cloud, public plus private cloud? What is community cloud shared by organization? Which cloud is most secure, private cloud? Which cloud is low cost, public cloud? What is virtualization, virtual source creation? Which software enables virtualization, hypervisor? Which cloud service is used for storage, cloud storage? What is Google Drive, cloud storage service? What is Dropbox, file hosting service? What is OneDrive, Microsoft Cloud Storage? What is SaaS, example, Gmail? What is PaaS, example, Google App Engine? What is IaaS, example, Amazon EC2? What is data center service, server facility? What is load balancing, traffic distribution? What is CDN, content delivery network? What is the full form of CDN, content delivery network? What is edge computing, near device computing? What is IoT, Internet of Things? What is the full form of IoT, Internet of Things? What is a smart device, internet enabled device? What is a smart home, automated home? What is a smart city, technology based city? What is big data, huge data collection? What are three V's of big data, volume, velocity, variety? What is mining, data pattern extraction? What is machine learning, learning from data? What is artificial intelligence, machine learning? What is chatbot, example, chat GTP? What is voice assistant, voice based AI? What is Alexa, voice assistant? What is Google Assistant, AI Assistant? What is data analytics, data analysis process? What is predictive analytics, future prediction? What is cyber attack, digital attack? What is ethical hacking, unauthorized hacking? What is white hatter hacker, ethical hacker? What is black hat hacker, criminal hacker? What is gray hat hacker, mixed hacker? What is penetration testing, security testing? What is cyber awareness, online safety knowledge? What is Digital India Mission Digital Development Program? What is digital transformation? Technology based range change. What is online identity? Digital identity. What is cyber footprint, also called digital footprint? What is virtual reality? Computer generated environment? What is augmented reality? Enhanced real world? What is mixed reality? VR plus AR? What is metaverse? Virtual digital world? What is blockchain? Distributed ledger? What is cryptocurrency? Digital currency? What is cryptocurrency? Bitcoin. What is digital wallet? Electronic payment wallet. Which is a digital wallet in India? Paytm. What is UPI? UPI ID, unique payment address. What is net neutrality? Equal internet access. What is fake news? False information. What is fact checking? Information verification. What is cyberbullying? Online harassment. What is doxing? Publishing private data. What is identity theft? Stealing personal identity. What is password manager? Password storage tool? What is strong password? Complex password? What is biometric data? Body identification data? What is cyber hygiene or safe online practices? What is securizing safe internet uses? What is digital consent? Online permission? What is cloud security? Cloud data protection? What is data sovereignty? Data location control? What is digital economy? Economy based on digital tech. What is e-participation? Online public participation. What is internet governance? Internet regulation system. MS वर्ड का पहले क्वेश्चन नंबर 1281 से व्हाट इज MS वर्ड? वर्ड प्रोसेसिंग सॉफ्टवेयर. हु डेवलप्ड MS वर्ड? माइक्रोसॉफ्ट. What is the default file extension of MS Word? Docx. What is document in MS Word? Text file. Which shortcut is used to create new document? Control plus N. Which shortcut is used to save document? Control plus S. Which shortcut is used to open a document? Control plus A. Which shortcut is used to print document? Control plus B. Which shortcut is used to select all text? Control plus A. Which shortcut is used to copy text? Control plus C. Which shortcut is used to cut text? Control plus X. Which shortcut is used to paste text? Control plus V. Which shortcut is used for undo? Control plus Z. Which shortcut is used for redo? Control plus Y. Which feature is used to check a spelling? Spell check. Which key opens spell check dialog? F7. What is font? Text style. What is font size? Text size. Which option makes text bold? Bold. Shortcut for bold text? Control plus B. Shortcut for italic text? Control plus I. Shortcut for underline text? Control plus U. What is alignment? Text positioning. Which alignment places text in center? Center alignment. Shortcut for left alignment? Control plus L. Shortcut for right alignment? Control plus R. Shortcut for in center alignment? Control plus E. Shortcut for justify alignment? Control plus J. What is margin? Page boundary space. What is header? Top page text. What is footer? Bottom page text. What is page number? Page identification. What is table in MS Word? Rows and column. Which option insert table? Insert table. What is clip art? Ready-made image. What is word art? Decorative text. What is page orientation? Page direction. What are page orientation tabs? Portrait, landscape. What is watermark? Faded background text. What is mail merge? Bulk document creation. What is template? Pre-designed document. What is find option used for search text? Shortcut for find? Control plus F. What is replace option? Change text. Shortcut for replace? Control plus H. What is zoom? View size change. What is a status bar? Document information bar. What is ruler used for margin setting? What is print preview before print view? What is page break? Page new start? New page start. चलिए तो यहाँ पे आपका MS वर्ड कंप्लीट होता है. MS एक्सेल का क्वेश्चन आंसर डिस्कस करते हैं. व्हाट इज MS एक्सेल स्प्रेडशीट सॉफ्टवेयर? व्हाट इज अ वर्कशीट? स्प्रेडशीट पेज. What is workbook? Collection of worksheets. What is cell intersection of rows and column? What is cell address? Cell location. What is the default file extensions of MS Excel? .xlsx. What is the formula bar? Formula display bar. What is a row? Horizontal cells. What is a column? Vertical cells. What is range in Excel? Group of cells. What symbol is used to start a formula? Equal to. What is sum function used for addition? What is average function? Calculates mean. What is count function? Counts number. What is max function? Finds highest value. What is mean function? Finds lowest value. What is if function? Logical function. What is a chart? Graphical data display. Which chart shows data in bars? Bar chart. Which chart shows data in circle? Pie chart. What is cell reference? Cell address. What is relative reference? Changing reference. What is absolute reference? Fixed reference. What is symbol used in absolute reference? Dollar. What is conditional formatting? Rule based formatting. What is filter? Data selection tool. What is sort? Data arrangement. What is freeze pane? Lock rows column. What is pivot table? Data summary tool. What is spreadsheet? Table based data sheet. What is autofill? Automatic data fill. What is cell formatting? Cell appearance change. What is alignment in Excel? Text positioning. What is wrap text? Text in multiple lines. What is merge cell? Combine cells. What is data validation, input restriction? What is VLOOKUP, vertical lookup function? What is HLOOKUP, horizontal lookup function? What is a spreadsheet formula, calculation expression? What is error in Excel formula, incorrect calculation? What is hatch div slash zero error divided by zero? What is hash value error, wrong data type? What is spreadsheet protection, sheet security? What is password protection, file security? What is macro automated task? What is CSV file, comma separated values? What is Excel chart legend data identifier? What is grid line, cell boundary lines? What is print area, selected print range? व्हाट इज पेज लेआउट व्यू, प्रिंट लेआउट व्यू? तो यहाँ पे एम एस एक्सेल का भी खत्म होता है, तो एम एस पावर पॉइंट का स्टार्ट करते हैं क्वेश्चन आंसर डिस्कशन। व्हाट इज एम एस पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन सॉफ्टवेयर? व्हाट इज स्लाइड प्रेजेंटेशन पेज? व्हाट इज प्रेजेंटेशन स्लाइड शो? व्हाट इज द डिफॉल्ट फाइल एक्सटेंशन ऑफ पावर पॉइंट डॉट पीपीटीएक्स? व्हाट इज शॉर्टकट क्रिएशन न्यू स्लाइड कंट्रोल प्लस एम? विच शॉर्टकट स्टार्ट स्लाइड शो F5? Which shortcut start slide show from current slide shift plus F5? What is slide layout, slide structure? What is theme in PowerPoint, design template? What is a transition, slide change effect? What is animation, object movement effect? What is slide master, slide formatting control? What is notes pane, speaker notes area? What is handout printed slide? What is slideshow view, full screen presentation? What is normal view, default editing view? What is slide sorter view, slide arrangement view? What is placeholder container? What is action button, navigation button? व्हाट इज हाइपर लिंक इन पावर पॉइंट, क्लिकेबल लिंक? तो यहाँ पे एम एस पावर पॉइंट का फिनिश होता है। कॉमन जो एम एस ऑफिस जैसे एम एस वर्ड, एम एस एक्सल और पावर पॉइंट में जो जो कॉमन है क्वेश्चन आंसर उसका डिस्कशन करते हैं। व्हाट इज एम एस ऑफिस, ऑफिस एप्लीकेशन सूट? विच कंपनी डेवलप्ड एम एस ऑफिस, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट? विच सॉफ्टवेयर इज यूज फॉर डॉक्यूमेंट, एम एस वर्ड? विच सॉफ्टवेयर इज यूज फॉर कैलकुलेशन, एम एस स्केल, एम एस एक्सल? विच सॉफ्टवेयर इज यूज फॉर प्रेजेंटेशन, एम एस पावर पॉइंट? व्हाट इज रिबन कमांड टूल बार? What is Quick Access Toolbar, frequently used tools? What is File Type, File Management Menu? What is Save As, Save with New Name? What is Default View, Initial Screen View? What is Clipboard, Temporary Storage? What is Shortcut Open Cells, F1? What is a Status Bar, Information Bar? What is Zoom Slider, Zoom Control? What is Template in Office Pre-Designed File? What is Compatibility Mode, Older Version Support? What is Shortcut Key, Cube Command Key? What is Macro Security, Macro Protection? What is File Encryption, File Security Method? What is Password Protected File, Locked File? What is Print Layout, Print View? What is review type used for proofing tools? What is track changes, edit tracking? What is common comment features, feedback tool? What is collaboration in office shared editing? What is cloud sign, online file sign? What is OneDrive used for cloud storage? What is autosave, automatic saving? What is version history, previous file versions? What is office add-in extra feature tool? What is spell checker, error detection tool? What is grammar check, language correction? What is thesis, cinnamon tool? What is page setup, page setting? What is orientation, page direction? What is landscape mode, horizontal layout? What is portrait mode, vertical layout? What is header and footer, page top and bottom text? What is mail merge used for bulk letter? What is watermark used for background identification? What is page numbering, page order? What is print scaling, size adjustment? What is preview pane, file preview area? What is file sharing, file distribution? What is co-authoring, simultaneous editing? What is accessibility feature, disabled user support? What is read only mode, view only? What is document recovery, restore unsafe file? What is file compression, file size reduction? What is PDF portable document format? Which software reads PDF, Adobe Reader? What is export option, save in other format? What is import option, bring external file? What is compatibility check, version issue check? What is cloud-based office, online office apps? What is Office 365, now called Microsoft 365? What is subscription software, periodic payment software? What is license key, software activation key? What is open source office suite, LibreOffice? What is office automation, automated office work? स्टार्ट करते हैं। व्हाट इज कंप्यूटर सिक्योरिटी, सिस्टम प्रोटेक्शन? व्हाट इज साइबर सिक्योरिटी, डिजिटल सिक्योरिटी? व्हाट इज अ वायरस, हार्मफुल प्रोग्राम? व्हाट इज एंटीवायरस सॉफ्टवेयर, वायरस रिमूवल टूल? विच सॉफ्टवेयर प्रोटेक्ट्स कंप्यूटर फ्रॉम वायरस, एंटीवायरस? व्हाट इज मालवेयर, मैलिशियस सॉफ्टवेयर? What is spyware, data stealing software? What is adware, advertisement software? What is ransomware, data locking malware? What is Trojan horse, disguised malware? What is worm, self-reflecting malware? What is phishing, online fraud? What is spam, unwanted messages? What is firewall, network security system? What does firewall block unauthorized access? What is encryption, data encoding? What is decryption, data decoding? What is password, secret key? What is a strong password, complex password? What is authentication, identity verification? What is authorization, access permission? What is biometric security, body based security? What is fingerprint authentication, fingerprint verification? What is face recognition, face identification? What is OTP, one time password? What is two factor authentication, double security? What is hacking, unauthorized access? What is ethical hacking, unauthorized hacking? What is white hat hacker, ethical hacker? व्हाट इज ब्लैक हैट हैकर, क्रिमिनल हैकर? तो यहाँ पे प्रोग्रामिंग बेसिक का क्वेश्चन आता है. व्हाट इज प्रोग्रामिंग राइटिंग इंस्ट्रक्शन? व्हाट इज अ प्रोग्राम सेट ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शंस? व्हाट इज प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज इंस्ट्रक्शंस लैंग्वेज? व्हाट इज मशीन लैंग्वेज बाइनरी लैंग्वेज? व्हाट इज असेंबली लैंग्वेज सिंबॉलिक लैंग्वेज? व्हाट इज हाई लेवल लैंग्वेज यूजर फ्रेंडली लैंग्वेज? Which language is machine dependent? Machine language. Which language is machine independent? High level language. What is compiler? Language translator. What is interpreter? Line by line translator. Which translator converts whole program at once? Compiler. Which translator converts program line by line? Interpreter. What is source code? Original program. What is object code? Machine code. What is algorithm? Step by step solution. What is flowchart? Graphical algorithm? Which what symbol is used for start stop in flowchart? Oval. What symbol is used for process in flowchart? Rectangle. What symbol is used for decision in flowchart? Diamond. What symbol is used for input output? Parallelogram. What is CDO code? Informal algorithm. What is debugging? Error removal. What is syntax error? Grammar mistake. What is logical error? Wrong logic. What is runtime error? Execution time error. What is variable? Data holder. What is constant fixed value? What is data type? Type of data. What is integer data type? Whole number. What is float data type? Decimal number. What is character data type? Single character. What is string? Group of characters. What is operator? Operation symbol. What is arithmetic operator? Mathematical operator? What is relational operator? Comparison operator? What is logical operator? Logical decision operator? What is assignment operator? Value assignment? What is conditional statement? Decision statement? What is if statement? Conditional statement? What is if else statement? Two-way decision? What is loop? Repetition structure? What is for loop? Count control loop? What is while loop? Condition control loop? What is do while loop? Exit control loop? What is infinite loop? Endless loop? What is break statement? Loop termination? What is continue statement? Skip iteration? What is function? Reusable code block? What is user defined function? User created function? What is built-in function? Predefined function? What is parameter? Function input? What is return statement? Return value? What is recursion? Function calling itself? What is array? Collection of same data? What is index in array? Element positioning? What is multi-dimensional array? Arrow of arrays? What is pointer? Address holder? What is a structure? Group of variables? What is file handling? File operations? What is input stream? Data input flow? यहाँ सिक्योरिटी का क्वेश्चन स्टार्ट होता है. व्हाट इज डाटा बैकअप? डाटा कॉपी? व्हाट इज रीस्टोर? रिकवर डाटा? व्हाट इज असेस कंट्रोल? परमिशन मैनेजमेंट? व्हाट इज ऑडिट ट्रेल एक्टिविटी लॉग? व्हाट इज डाटा इंटीग्रिटी? डाटा एक्यूरेसी? व्हाट इज कॉन्फिडेंसली? डाटा सिक्योरिटी? What is availability? Data access readiness? What is CIA tried confidentially? Integrity availability? What is intrusion detection system? Attack detection system? What is IDS? Intrusion detection system? कंप्यूटर सिक्योरिटी का एडवांस वर्जन का क्वेश्चन है. व्हाट इज आईपीएस इंट्रूजन प्रिवेंशन सिस्टम? व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ आईपीएस ब्लॉक अटैक? व्हाट इज एंटीवायरस सिग्नेचर वायरस पैटर्न? What is heuristic analysis? Behavior based detection? What is sandboxing? Isolated execution? What is patch management? Software update? What is vulnerability? Security weakness? What is exploit? Vulnerability misuse? What is zero day attack? Unknown vulnerability attack? What is DDoS attack? Distributed traffic flood? What is the full form of DDoS? Distributor denial of service? What is social engineering? Human manipulation? What is shoulder surfing? Password spying? What is key logging? Keystroke recording? What is brute force attack? Password guessing attack? What is salting in password? Random data addition? What is hashing? One-way encryption? What is digital certificate identity proof? What is PKI? Public key infrastructure? What is public key shared encryption key? यहाँ प्रोग्रामिंग एंड सॉफ्टवेयर के बेसिस पे, कॉन्सेप्ट के बेसिस पे क्वेश्चन है। व्हाट इज प्राइवेट की, सीक्रेट इंक्रिप्शन की, व्हाट इज सॉफ्टवेयर टेस्टिंग, वर्ज डिसेक्शन, व्हाट इज यूनिट टेस्टिंग, मॉड्यूल टेस्टिंग, व्हाट इज इंटीग्रेशन टेस्टिंग, कंबाइंड मॉड्यूल टेस्टिंग, व्हाट इज सिस्टम टेस्टिंग, फुल सिस्टम टेस्टिंग, what is acceptance testing, user validation, what is SDLC, software development cycle, what is the full form of SDLC, software development life cycle, what is requirement analysis, user need analysis, what is software design, system blueprint, what is coding, program writing, what is testing phase, error checking phase, what is maintenance, post release support, what is waterfall model, sequential SDLC model, what is agile model, iterative development model, what is bug, software error, what is patch, bug fix update, what is version control, code change tracking, what is repository code storage, what is git, version control system, what is github, code hosting platform, what is open source software, free source code software, what is proprietary software, closed source software, what is licensing software usage rights, what is freeware, free to use software, what is shareware, trial software, what is middleware, connecting software layer, what is API, application interface, what is full form of API, application programming interface, what is IDE, coding environment। यहाँ पे प्रोग्रामिंग एंड डाटा बेस का बेसिक क्वेश्चन है। व्हाट इज आईडीई, फुल फॉर्म इंटीग्रेटेड डेवलपमेंट एनवायरनमेंट, व्हाट इज डीबगिंग टूल, एरर फाइंडिंग टूल, व्हाट इज कंपाइलर एरर, ट्रांसलेशन एरर, व्हाट इज लॉजिकल ऑपरेटर एंड सिंबल, व्हाट इज लॉजिकल ऑपरेटर और सिंबल स्लैश, दो गो सिंबल हो जाएगा, व्हाट इज नॉट ऑपरेटर सिस्टम, दैट इज एरर का मार्क हो जाएगा, व्हाट इज बूलियन डाटा टाइप, ट्रू और फॉल्स हो जाएगा, व्हाट इज कंडीशनल ऑपरेटर, टर्नरी ऑपरेटर, व्हाट इज लूप काउंटर, इटरेशन वेरिएबल, व्हाट इज नेस्टेड लूप, लूप इनसाइड लूप। यहाँ पे डाटाबेस कॉन्सेप्ट का क्वेश्चन है, तो चलिए, व्हाट इज डाटाबेस, ऑर्गेनाइज डाटा कलेक्शन, व्हाट इज डीबीएमएस, डाटाबेस मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम, व्हाट इज द फुल फॉर्म ऑफ डीबीएमएस, डाटाबेस मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम, what is the full form of RDBMS, relational DBMS, what is the full form of RDBMS, relational database management system, what is table in database, rows and column, what is record table row, what is field table column, what is primary key, unique identifier, what is foreign key, reference key, what is SQL, database query language, what is the full form of SQL, structure query language, what is select command used for data retrieval, what is insert command used for add data, what is update command used for modify data, what is delete command used for remove data, what is where clause condition filter, what is order by clause sorting data, what is group by clause data grouping, what is aggregate function, summary function। यहाँ पे सिक्योरिटी एंड नेटवर्किंग का मिक्स क्वेश्चन है, जो आता ही आता है एग्जाम में। तो चलिए डिस्कस करते हैं। व्हाट इज डाटा ब्रीच, डाटा लीकेज, व्हाट इज साइबर फॉरेंसिक्स, डिजिटल इन्वेस्टिगेशन, व्हाट इज इंसिडेंट रिस्पॉन्स, अटैक हैंडलिंग, व्हाट इज रिस्क हरासमेंट, रिस्क एवेल्यूशन, व्हाट इज बैकअप पॉलिसी, बैकअप रूल्स, व्हाट इज असेस लॉग, लॉग इन रिकॉर्ड, what is secure boot, trusted startup, what is BIOS security, firmware protection, what is system hardening, security strengthening, व्हाट इज इन पॉइंट सिक्योरिटी, डिवाइस प्रोटेक्शन। यहाँ पे प्रोग्रामिंग एंड आईटी अवेयरनेस का क्वेश्चन है, जो कुछ कुछ एग्जाम में पूछता है कभी कभार। व्हाट इज क्लाउड बेस्ड एप्लीकेशन, ऑनलाइन एप्लीकेशन, व्हाट इज CAAS, एग्जाम्पल गूगल DOC एस, व्हाट इज क्रॉस प्लेटफॉर्म सॉफ्टवेयर, मल्टी ओएस सॉफ्टवेयर, व्हाट इज मोबाइल एप्लीकेशन ऐप फॉर स्मार्टफोन्स, व्हाट इज ऐप स्टोर, ऐप डाउनलोड प्लेटफॉर्म, व्हाट इज प्ले स्टोर, एंड्रॉइड प्ले स्टोर, व्हाट इज सॉफ्टवेयर अपडेट, इम्प्रूव वर्जन, what is software patch, bug fix, what is digital skill, tech ability, what is IT literacy, computer awareness। तो यहाँ पे लास्ट है सिक्योरिटी और डाटाबेस और प्रोग्रामिंग का फाइनल मिक्स क्वेश्चन है, जो इम्पोर्टेंट है। ऊपर वाला पढ़ लिए हैं तो आपको ये जल्दी से याद हो जाएगा। व्हाट इज डाटा लॉस, डाटा डिलेशन, व्हाट इज डाटा रिकवरी, रिस्टोर डिलेटेड डाटा, व्हाट इज सिक्योर डिलीशन, परमानेंट डाटा रिमूवल, व्हाट इज सिस्टम ऑडिट, सिक्योरिटी इन्फेक्शन inspections, what is compliance rule adherence, what is GDPR, data protection law, what is access privilege, user permission level, what is least privilege principle, minimum access rule, what is audit log, activity record, what is CIEM, security monitoring system, what is the full form of CIEM, security information and event management, what is log monitoring, log analysis, what is database normalization, reduce data redundancy, what is first normal form, automatic values, what is redundancy, Data duplication. What is data consistency? Data informativity. What is database backup? Database copy. What is transaction? Database operation. What is ACID property? Transaction rules. What does ACID stand for? Automaticity, consistency, isolation, durability. What is commit, safe transaction? What is rollback? Undo transaction. What is deadlock? Resource wait condition. What is concurrency control? Multi-user control. What is expectation handling? Error handling mechanism. What is try catch block? Expectation handling block. What is object oriented programming? Object based programming. What is class object blueprint? What is object instance of class? What is inheritance property sharing? What is polymorphism? Many forms. What is encapsulation? Data hiding. What is abstraction? Hide complexity. What is constructor? Object initializer. What is destructor? Object cleanup. What is thread? Lightweight process. What is multi-threading? Multiple threads execution. What is deadlock? Unused code. What is code optimization? Performance improvement. What is refactoring? Code in restructuring. What is memory leak? Unreleased memory. What is garbage collection? Memory cleanup. What is virtual machine? Software based computer. What is containerization? App packaging method. What is Docker container platform? What is dev ops, dev plus ops practice? What is CI/CD, automated delivery pipeline? What is the full form of CI, continuous integration? What is the full form of CD, continuous deployment? What is monitoring system observation? What is alerting issue notification? ये तो आम बोलचाल में है कि हम लोग का फोन में भी अलर्ट आता है तो हम समझ जाते हैं कि वो नोटिफिकेशन है. What is SLA, service agreement? What is the full form of SLA? Service level agreement. What is uptime, system availability time? What is downtime, system unavailability? What is disaster recovery, post failure restoration? What is business continuity, continuous operation? What is risk mitigation, risk reduction? What is cyber resilience, attack recovery ability? What is IT governance, IT management frame 21? What is computer network, interconnected computer? What is networking, connecting computers? What is a node, network device? What is data communication, data transfer? What is bandwidth, data transfer capacity? What is latency, transmission delay? What is throughput, actual data transfer rate? What is transmission media, data path? What is guided media, wired media? What is unguided media, wireless media? What is twisted pair cable, copper wire cable? What is coaxial cable, shielded cable? What is fiber optic cable, light based cable? What is microwave transmission, high frequency wireless? What is infrared communication, short range wireless? यहाँ पे नेटवर्क टाइप्स का क्वेश्चन है. व्हाट इज लैंड, लोकल एरिया नेटवर्क? व्हाट इज मैन, मेट्रोपॉलिटन एरिया नेटवर्क? व्हाट इज वैन, वाइड एरिया नेटवर्क? व्हाट इज पैन, पर्सनल एरिया नेटवर्क? व्हाट इज वीपीएन, वर्चुअल प्राइवेट नेटवर्क? यहाँ नेटवर्क डिवाइस का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. व्हाट इज मॉडम, मॉड्यूलेटर, डीमॉड्यूलेटर? व्हाट इज राउटर, पैकेट फॉरवर्डिंग डिवाइस? व्हाट इज अ स्विच, लैंड कनेक्टिंग डिवाइस? व्हाट इज अ हब, ब्रॉडकास्ट डिवाइस? व्हाट इज अ रिपीटर, सिग्नल बूस्टर? व्हाट इज अ ब्रिज, नेटवर्क सेगमेंट कनेक्टर? व्हाट इज गेटवे प्रोटोकॉल कन्वर्टर? व्हाट इज एनआईसी, नेटवर्क इंटरफेस कार्ड? What is access point, wireless connector? What is firewall in network, security barrier? प्रोटोकॉल एंड एड्रेसिंग का क्वेश्चन आंसर डिस्कस करते हैं. चलिए. व्हाट इज प्रोटोकॉल, कम्युनिकेशन रूल्स? व्हाट इज टीसीपी आईपी, इंटरनेट प्रोटोकॉल सूट? व्हाट इज आईपी एड्रेस, डिवाइस आइडेंटिफायर? व्हाट इज IPv4 32 bit IP address? What is IPv6 128 bit IP address? What is MAC address, hardware address? What is DNS, domain name system? What is DHCP, automatic IP assignment? What is FTP, file transfer protocol? What is HTTP, wave transfer protocol? यहाँ पे वायरलेस एंड कम्युनिकेशन का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. व्हाट इज वाईफाई, वायरलेस नेटवर्किंग? व्हाट इज ब्लूटूथ, शॉर्ट रेंज वायरलेस? व्हाट इज हॉटस्पॉट, इंटरनेट शेयरिंग पॉइंट? व्हाट इज मोबाइल डाटा, सेलुलर इंटरनेट? व्हाट इज 4G, फोर्थ जनरेशन नेटवर्क? व्हाट इज 5G, फिफ्थ जनरेशन नेटवर्क? व्हाट इज VoIP, वॉइस ओवर इंटरनेट? व्हाट इज वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग, ऑनलाइन वीडियो मीटिंग? व्हाट इज पैकेट स्विचिंग, डाटा पैकेट ट्रांसफर? व्हाट इज सर्किट स्विचिंग, डेडिकेटेड पाथ कम्युनिकेशन? यहाँ पे इंटरनेट एंड वेब कम्युनिकेशन का आंसर करते हैं. व्हाट इज इंटरनेट ग्लोबल नेटवर्क? व्हाट इज WW, वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब? Who invented www, time berners-lee? What is a website, collection of web pages? What is web page, signal, HTML document? What is URL, web address? What is full form of URL, universe resource locator? What is a web browser, viewing website viewing software? What is a web browser, Google Chrome? What is search engine, information finder? यहाँ पे ईमेल एंड ऑनलाइन सर्विस का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. व्हाट इज ईमेल, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मेल? व्हाट इज इनबॉक्स, रिसीव मेल फोल्डर? व्हाट इज आउटबॉक्स, पेंडिंग मेल फोल्डर? व्हाट इज सेंट मेल, डिलीवर्ड मेल? व्हाट इज स्पैम मेल, अनवांटेड मेल? What is attachment in email? Attached file. What is CC in email? Carbon copy. What is BCC in email? Blind carbon copy. What is email client? Email software. What is web mail? Browser based email. यहाँ पे नेटवर्क टोपोलॉजी का क्वेश्चन आंसर डिस्कस करते हैं. व्हाट इज नेटवर्क टोपोलॉजी? नेटवर्क लेआउट. व्हाट इज बस टोपोलॉजी? सिग्नल केबल नेटवर्क. व्हाट इज स्टार टोपोलॉजी? सेंट्रल नोड नेटवर्क. व्हाट इज रिंग टोपोलॉजी? सर्कुलर नेटवर्क. व्हाट इज मेश टोपोलॉजी? फुल्ली कनेक्टेड नेटवर्क. व्हाट इज ट्री टोपोलॉजी? हायरार्किकल नेटवर्क. व्हाट इज हाइब्रिड टोपोलॉजी? कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ टोपोलॉजी. Which topology uses hubs? Use star topology. Which topology is costliest? Mesh topology. Which topology is easiest to install? Bus topology. यहाँ पे नेटवर्क सिक्योरिटी एंड सर्विस का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. तो चलिए डिस्कस करते हैं. व्हाट इज नेटवर्क सिक्योरिटी? नेटवर्क प्रोटेक्शन. व्हाट इज सिक्योर नेटवर्क? प्रोटेक्टेड नेटवर्क. व्हाट इज ऑथेंटिकेशन सर्वर? आइडेंटिटी वेरीफायर. व्हाट इज प्रॉक्सी सर्वर? इंटरमीडिएट सर्वर. व्हाट इज लोड बैलेंसिंग? ट्रैफिक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. व्हाट इज नेटवर्क कंजेशन? ट्रैफिक ओवरलोड. व्हाट इज QoS? क्वालिटी ऑफ सर्विस. व्हाट इज पोर्ट नंबर? सर्विस आइडेंटिफायर. What is HTTP port number 80? What is HTTPS port number 443? Communication modes का है क्वेश्चन आंसर. What is simplex communication? One way communication. What is half duplicate communication? Two way alternate. What is full duplicate communication? Two way simultaneous. What is analog signal? Continuous signal. What is digital signal? Discrete signal. What is modulation? Signal conversion. What is demodulation? Signal recovery. What is packet data unit? What is jitter? Delay variation. What is noise in communication? Signal distribution disturbance. यहाँ नेटवर्क प्रोटोकॉल्स एंड सर्विसेज का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. व्हाट इज HTTPS? सिक्योर HTTP. व्हाट डज HTTPS यूज फॉर सिक्योरिटी? SSL and TLCS. What is SSL? Secure socket layer. What is TLS? Transport layer security. What is SMTP? Email sending protocol. What is POP3? Email receiving protocol. What is IMAP? Online mail access. What is Telnet? Remote login net protocol. What is SSH? Secure remote login. What is SNMP? नेटवर्क मैनेजमेंट प्रोटोकॉल. यहाँ पे एड्रेसिंग एंड राउटिंग का क्वेश्चन आंसर है जो इंपॉर्टेंट है, आने का बहुत चांस है. व्हाट इज सबनेटिंग? नेटवर्क डिवीजन. व्हाट इज सबनेट मार्क्स? नेटवर्क आइडेंटिफायर. व्हाट इज डिफॉल्ट गेटवे एग्जिट राउटर. व्हाट इज राउटिंग पाथ सिलेक्शन. व्हाट इज राउटिंग टेबल पाथ लिस्ट. व्हाट इज स्टैटिक राउटिंग मैनुअल फ्लो राउटिंग. व्हाट इज डायनामिक राउटिंग ऑटोमेटिक राउटिंग. व्हाट इज रिफ राउटिंग प्रोटोकॉल. व्हाट इज OSPF लिंक स्टेट राउटिंग. व्हाट इज BGP इंटरनेट राउटिंग प्रोटोकॉल. यहाँ पे नेटवर्क मॉडल्स का है. व्हाट इज OSI मॉडल? नेटवर्क लेयर मॉडल. हाउ मेनी लेयर आर इन OSI मॉडल? 7. What is the top layer of OSI model? Application layer. What is the bottom layer of OSI model? Physical layer. Which layer handles routing? Network layer. Which layer ensures reliable delivery? Transport layer. Which layer handles encryption? Presentation layer. Which layer handles session control? Session layer. Which layer interacts with user? Application layer. Which user converts data to bits? Physical layer. यहाँ पे TCP IP मॉडल का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. What is TCP IP model? Internet protocol. Internet model. How many layer are TCP and IP model? 4. What is the top layer of TCP IP model? Application layer. What is the bottom layer of TCP IP model? Network access layer. Which protocol ensures reliable transmission? TCP. Which protocol is connectionless? UDP. What is UDP? Full form user datagram protocol. What is ICMP? Error reporting protocol. What is PIN? PIN command used for network testing. What is trace route? Path tracing tool. यहाँ नेटवर्क परफॉर्मेंस एंड सिक्योरिटी का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. व्हाट इज पैकेट लॉस डाटा पैकेट. व्हाट इज नेटवर्क मॉनिटरिंग नेटवर्क ऑब्जर्वेशन. व्हाट इज इंट्रूजन प्रिवेंशन अटैक ब्लॉकिंग. व्हाट इज सिक्योर टनलिंग इनक्रप्टेड चैनल. व्हाट इज VPN टनलिंग सिक्योर डाटा पाथ. व्हाट इज पैकेट स्निफिंग पैकेट मॉनिटरिंग. What is man in the middle attack communication interception. What is port scanning open port detection. What is network isolation network separation. What is DMZ demilitarized zone. यहाँ पे एडवांस नेटवर्किंग एंड कम्युनिकेशन का क्वेश्चन है, तो चलिए डिस्कस करते हैं. व्हाट इज क्लाउड नेटवर्किंग नेटवर्क ओवर क्लाउड. व्हाट इज एड्ज कंप्यूटिंग प्रोसेसिंग नियर सोर्स. व्हाट इज फॉग कंप्यूटिंग इंटरमीडिएट कंप्यूटिंग लेयर. What is IoT Internet of Things. What is M2M communication machine to machine. What is smart device internet enabled device. What is smart home automated home. What is smart city tech enabled city. What is sensor network sensor based network. What is variable device body worn device. यहाँ वायरलेस एंड मोबाइल नेटवर्क का क्वेश्चन. व्हाट इज सेलुलर नेटवर्क सेल बेस्ड नेटवर्क. व्हाट इज बेस स्टेशन सेल टावर. व्हाट इज रोमिंग नेटवर्क स्विचिंग. व्हाट इज हैंड ऑफ कॉल ट्रांसफर बिटवीन cells. What is LTE long term evolution. What is bandwidth throttling speed limiting. What is signal attenuation signal wicking. What is noise margin signal safety margin. What is network interface signal disruption. What is frequency band frequency range. नेटवर्क मैनेजमेंट एंड टूल्स का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. व्हाट इज नेटवर्क मैनेजमेंट नेटवर्क कंट्रोल. व्हाट इज कॉन्फ़िगरेशन मैनेजमेंट डिवाइस सेटअप कंट्रोल. व्हाट इज फॉल्ट मैनेजमेंट एरर हैंडलिंग. व्हाट इज परफॉर्मेंस मैनेजमेंट स्पीड मॉनिटरिंग. व्हाट इज अकाउंटिंग मैनेजमेंट यूजेज ट्रैकिंग. व्हाट इज सिक्योरिटी मैनेजमेंट सिक्योरिटी कंट्रोल. What is network automation, automated network tasks? What is SDN, software defined networking? What is NFV, network function virtualization? What is network virtualization, virtual network creation? मॉडर्न इंटरनेट एंड सिक्योरिटी का क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट इज जीरो ट्रस्ट नेटवर्क, नेवर ट्रस्ट मॉडल, व्हाट इज सिक्योर एसेस सर्विस एज SASC, क्लाउड सिक्योरिटी मॉडल, व्हाट इज कंटेंट डिलीवरी नेटवर्क CDN, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड कंटेंट डिलीवरी, व्हाट इज लोड टेस्टिंग, ट्रैफिक टेस्टिंग, व्हाट इज स्ट्रेस टेस्टिंग, ओवरलोड टेस्टिंग, व्हाट इज पेनिट्रेशन टेस्टिंग, सिक्योरिटी टेस्टिंग, व्हाट इज वल्नरेबिलिटी स्कैनिंग, वीकनेस डिटेक्शन, what is patch deployment, update installation, what is network compliance policy adherence, what is audit compliance, audit rule follow. यहाँ final network awareness का question है, what is digital communication, electronic communication, what is real time communication, instant communication, what is asynchronous communication, delayed communication, what is synchronous communication, live communication, what is digital divide, take access gap, what is net neutrality, equal internet access, what is cyberspace, virtual internet space, what is digital infrastructure, tech foundation, what is smart governance, tech based governance, what is e-governance, electronic governance. यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन है कंप्यूटर हार्डवेयर बेसिक से रिलेटेड, तो स्टार्ट करते हैं. व्हाट इज कंप्यूटर हार्डवेयर, फिजिकल कंपोनेंट, व्हाट इज सिस्टम यूनिट, CPU कैबिनेट, what is CPU, central processing unit, what is the brain of computer, CPU, what are the main parts of CPU, ALU or CU, what is ALU, arithmetic logic unit, what is CU, control unit, what is register, small fast memory, what is motherboard, main circuit board, what is cheapest motherboard controller. यहाँ पे मेमोरी का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, व्हाट इज मेमोरी, डाटा स्टोरेज, व्हाट इज प्राइमरी मेमोरी, मेन मेमोरी, व्हाट इज सेकेंडरी मेमोरी, ऑक्सिलरी स्टोरेज, व्हाट इज रैम, वोलाटाइल मेमोरी, व्हाट इज रोम, नॉन वोलाटाइल मेमोरी, व्हिच मेमोरी इज वोलाटाइल, रैम, व्हिच मेमोरी इज परमानेंट, रोम, व्हाट इज कैश मेमोरी, हाई स्पीड मेमोरी, व्हाट इज वर्चुअल मेमोरी, हार्ड डिस्क बेस्ड मेमोरी, व्हाट इज मेमोरी कैपेसिटी मेजर इन बाइट्स, व्हाट इज हार्ड डिस्क मैग्नेटिक स्टोरेज, व्हाट इज SSD सॉलिड स्टेट ड्राइव, व्हाट इज फास्टर HDD और SSD, व्हाट इज पेन ड्राइव, flash storage, what is CD, compact disc, what is DVD, digital versatile disc, which has more capacity, CD or DVD, what is Blu-ray disc, high capacity optical disc, what is cloud storage, online storage, what is cloud storage device, Google Drive. यहाँ input device का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, what is input device, data entry device, what is keyword text input device, what is mouse pointing device, what is scanner image input device, what is microphone audit input device, what is webcam video input device, what is joystick game input device, what is light pointing input device, what is touch screen touch input display, what is barcode reader code scanning device. यहाँ आउटपुट का है क्वेश्चन आंसर, व्हाट इज आउटपुट डिवाइस, रिजल्ट डिस्प्ले डिवाइस, व्हाट इज मॉनिटर, विजुअल डिस्प्ले यूनिट, व्हाट इज प्रिंटर हार्ड कॉपी डिवाइस, व्हाट इज स्पीकर ऑडियो आउटपुट डिवाइस, व्हाट इज हेडफोन पर्सनल ऑडियो आउटपुट, व्हाट इज प्लॉटर लार्ज प्रिंट डिवाइस, what is projector screen play display device, what is LCD liquid crystal play display, what is LED monitor light emitting display, what is resolution screen clarity. प्रिंटर एंड आउटपुट का क्वेश्चन आंसर है डिटेल में, तो चलिए डिस्कस करते हैं. व्हाट इज डॉट मैट्रिक्स प्रिंटर, इम्पैक्ट प्रिंटर, व्हाट इज इंजेक्ट प्रिंटर, नॉन इम्पैक्ट प्रिंटर, व्हाट इज लेजर प्रिंटर, हाई स्पीड प्रिंटर, व्हाट इज विच प्रिंटर इज फास्टेस्ट, लेजर प्रिंटर, विच प्रिंटर यूजेस टोनर, लेजर प्रिंटर, विच प्रिंटर इज चीपेस्ट, डॉट मैट्रिक्स प्रिंटर. What is character printer, prints one character at a time. What is line printer, prints one line at a time. What is page printer, prints full page. What is print quality measure in DPI. Display and graphic का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, what is GPU, graphics processing unit, what is VRAM, video memory, what is pixel, smallest screen element, what is refresh rate, screen update frequency, what is hertz frequency unit, what is aspect ratio, width to height ratio, what is VGA, video display standard, what is HDMI high definition interface, what is OLED display, organic LED display, what is touch screen technology, touch based input. यहाँ ports and connector का क्वेश्चन है, what is port connection interface, what is USB universal serial bus, what is USB used for device connection, what is USB 3.0 known for high speed, what is PS/2 port keyboard/mouse port, what is serial port, serial data transfer, what is parallel port, parallel data transfer, what is Ethernet port, network port, what is audio jack, sound connector, what is expansion slot, add on card slot, what is कूलिंग और पावर एंड कूलिंग का क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट इज SMPS पावर सप्लाई यूनिट, व्हाट इज फुल फॉर्म ऑफ SMPS स्विच मोड पावर सप्लाई, व्हाट इज UPS बैकअप पावर डिवाइस, व्हाट इज फुल फॉर्म ऑफ UPS यूनिटर यूनिटर सॉरी अनइंटरप्टेबल पावर सप्लाई, व्हाट इज हीट सिंक हीट डिसिपेशन डिवाइस, व्हाट इज कूलिंग फैन टेम्परेचर कंट्रोल डिवाइस, व्हाट इज थर्मल पेस्ट हीट ट्रांसफर मटेरियल, व्हाट इज ओवरलॉकिंग इंक्रीज CPU स्पीड, व्हाट इज अंडर लॉकिंग रिड्यूस सीपीयू स्पीड, व्हाट इज पावर सर्च सडन वोल्टेज स्किन। यहाँ हार्डवेयर मेंटेनेंस का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, व्हाट इज हार्डवेयर मेंटेनेंस, हार्डवेयर का केयर करना। व्हाट इज प्रिवेंटिव मेंटेनेंस, प्रॉब्लम प्रिवेंशन। व्हाट इज करेक्टिव मेंटेनेंस, फॉल्ट रिपेयर। व्हाट इज डिवाइस ड्राइवर, हार्डवेयर कंट्रोल सॉफ्टवेयर। व्हाट इज फर्मवेयर, एम्बेडेड सॉफ्टवेयर। व्हाट इज बायोस बूट फर्मवेयर। व्हाट इज पोस्ट पावर ऑन सेल्फ टेस्ट। व्हाट इज CMOS, configuration memory. What is hardware upgrade, component replacement. व्हाट इज पेरिफेरल डिवाइस, एक्सटर्नल डिवाइस। एडवांस इनपुट डिवाइस का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, तो चलिए डिस्कस करते हैं। व्हाट इज OCR, ऑप्टिकल कैरेक्टर रिकॉग्नाइजेशन। व्हाट इज OCR यूज फॉर टेक्स्ट रिकॉग्नाइजेशन। व्हाट इज OMR, ऑप्टिकल मार्क रिकॉग्नाइजेशन। व्हाट इज OMR यूज फॉर मार्क रीडिंग। जो हम लोग का एग्जाम में होता है ओमर शीट, उसी को जैसे हम लोग गोला लगाते हैं ना, उसी में चेक करने का होता है। उसमें अलग सा लिंक दिया हुआ रहता है जो मशीन चेक करता है। व्हाट इज MICR, मैग्नेटिक इंक कैरेक्टर रिकॉग्नाइजेशन। व्हाट इज MICR यूज फॉर चेक प्रोसेसिंग। What is barcode, machine readable code? What is QR code, quick response code? What is biometric device, identity input device? What is fingerprint scanner, biometric input device? यहाँ एडवांस आउटपुट डिवाइस का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, तो चलिए डिस्कस करते हैं। व्हाट इज ब्रेले प्रिंटर। ब्रेले प्रिंटर के बारे में तो नहीं जानते होंगे, डॉट मैट्रिक्स प्रिंटर के बारे में आप जानते होंगे क्योंकि हम लोग का डेली लाइफ में वही यूज होता है। ये एडवांस में यूज होता है, एम्बोसिंग प्रिंटर। व्हाट इज ब्रेले डिस्प्ले टेक्टाइल आउटपुट डिवाइस। व्हाट इज 3D प्रिंटर ऑब्जेक्ट प्रिंटिंग डिवाइस। व्हाट इज 3D प्रिंटिंग layer based printing. What is voice output device, speech output device. What is speech synthesizer, text to speech device. What is refreshable wireless display, dynamic wireless device. What is haptic feedback, touch based response. What is VR headset, virtual reality device. What is AR device, augmented reality device. यहाँ हार्डवेयर और इंटरफेसिंग स्टोरेज का क्वेश्चन है, तो चलिए डिस्कस करते हैं। व्हाट इज रेड, रेड क्या होता है, रिडंडेंट एरे ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंट डिस्क होता है, इसका फुल फॉर्म है और इसका डेफिनेशन मान लीजिए। व्हाट इज रेड यूज फॉर, रेड हम लोग यूज क्यों करते हैं, डाटा सेफ्टी एंड परफॉर्मेंस के लिए। व्हाट इज नैस, नैस क्या होता है ना, इसका फुल फॉर्म क्या हो सकता है, नेटवर्क अटैच स्टोरेज। व्हाट इज सैन, स्टोरेज एरिया नेटवर्क। व्हाट इज हॉट स्वैपिंग, रिप्लेस वाइल रनिंग। व्हाट इज प्लग एंड प्ले, ऑटो डिवाइस डिटेक्शन। व्हाट इज डिवाइस कंपेटेबिलिटी, हार्डवेयर सपोर्ट। व्हाट इज इंटरफेस कार्ड, कनेक्शन कार्ड। व्हाट इज साउंड कार्ड, ऑडियो प्रोसेसिंग कार्ड। व्हाट इज नेटवर्क कार्ड, नेटवर्क इंटरफेस कार्ड। हम लोग फास्टेस्ट व्यू में कर रहे हैं कि आपका रिवाइज हो सके, डिस्कस करने लगेंगे तो बहुत टाइम जाएगा, तो चलिए यहाँ पे सिस्टम परफॉर्मेंस एंड मॉनिटरिंग का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, डिस्कस करते हैं। व्हाट इज सिस्टम परफॉर्मेंस, सिस्टम एफिशिएंसी। ये आपका डिवीजन में बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट काम करेगा, एग्जाम में तो आएगा ही आएगा, ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं आएगा। व्हाट इज बेंच मार्किंग, परफॉर्मेंस से टेस्टिंग। व्हाट इज बोटल नेक, परफॉर्मेंस लिमिटेशन। व्हाट इज सॉरी ये व्हाट इज बोटल नेक, परफॉर्मेंस लिमिटेशन। व्हाट इज सिस्टम मॉनिटरिंग, रिसोर्स ट्रैकिंग। What is task manager, system monitor tool. What is device manager, hardware control tool. What is resource utilization, resource usage. What is thermal throttling, heat based speed reduction. What is system stability, error free operation. What is hardware failure, component breakdown. यहाँ अभी मॉडर्न हार्डवेयर अवेयरनेस का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, जो मॉडर्न मतलब आजकल जो चल रहा है। व्हाट इज वेरिएबल टेक्नोलॉजी, वेरिएबल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स। व्हाट इज स्मार्ट वॉच, अभी तो हर कोई के पास स्मार्ट वॉच होता होगा। wrist computer. What is smart TV, internet enabled TV. What is embedded system, dedicated computing system. What is microcontroller, single chip controller. What is IoT device, internet connected device. What is robotic hardware, robot components. What is drone, unmanned aerial vehicles. What is quantum computer hardware, quantum based components. व्हाट इज ग्रीन कंप्यूटिंग हार्डवेयर, एनर्जी एफिशिएंट हार्डवेयर। यहाँ हार्डवेयर सिक्योरिटी एंड रिलायबिलिटी का क्वेश्चन आंसर है, चलिए डिस्कस करते हैं। व्हाट इज हार्डवेयर सिक्योरिटी, फिजिकल प्रोटेक्शन। व्हाट इज फिजिकल सिक्योरिटी, एसेस प्रोटेक्शन। व्हाट इज डिवाइस लॉक, अनऑथराइज एसेस प्रिवेंशन। व्हाट इज हार्डवेयर इंक्रिप्शन, ऑन डिवाइस इंस्क्रिप्शन। व्हाट इज TPM, ट्रस्टेड प्लेटफॉर्म मॉड्यूल। व्हाट इज सिक्योर बूट हार्डवेयर, बूट इंटीग्रिटी डिवाइस। What is BIOS password, boot access lock. What is hardware firewall, physical firewall device. What is tamper detection, unauthorized change reception. What is fault tolerance, failure handling ability. यहाँ हार्डवेयर रिलायबिलिटी एंड बैकअप का क्वेश्चन है। व्हाट इज रिडंडेंसी, एक्स्ट्रा कंपोनेंट। व्हाट इज फेल ओवर, ऑटोमेटिक सिस्टम सॉरी ऑटोमेटिक स्विच होगा। व्हाट इज हॉट स्टैंड बाय, रेडी बैकअप सिस्टम। व्हाट इज कोल्ड स्टैंड बाय, इनएक्टिव बैकअप। व्हाट इज मिररिंग डाटा डुप्लीकेशन। व्हाट इज स्नैपशॉट पॉइंट इन टाइम कॉपी। व्हाट इज बैकअप हार्डवेयर, बैकअप डिवाइसेस। व्हाट इज टेप ड्राइव, मैग्नेटिक टेप स्टोरेज। व्हाट इज ऑप्टिकल बैकअप, डिस्क बेस्ड बैकअप। व्हाट इज ऑफ साइट बैकअप, रिमोट लोकेशन बैकअप। हार्डवेयर इंस्टॉलेशन एंड ट्रबल शूटिंग का क्वेश्चन सर। व्हाट इज हार्डवेयर इंस्टॉलेशन, कंपोनेंट सेटअप। व्हाट इज ड्राइवर इंस्टॉलेशन, हार्डवेयर सॉफ्टवेयर लिंक सेटअप। व्हाट इज कंपेटेबिलिटी चेक, सपोर्ट वेरिफिकेशन। व्हाट इज हार्डवेयर ट्रबल शूटिंग, प्रॉब्लम डायग्नोसिस। व्हाट इज डायग्नोस्टिक टूल, एरर डिटेक्शन टूल। व्हाट इज पोस्ट एरर, स्टार्टअप एरर। व्हाट इज वीप कोड, एरर साउंड कोड। व्हाट इज हार्डवेयर रीसेट, स्टोर डिफॉल्ट सेटिंग। What is BIOS update? Firmware upgrade. What is firmware flashing? Firmware rewriting. Modern and future hardware. What is AI hardware later? AI processing chip. What is TPU? Tensor processing unit. What is neuromorphic chip? Brain inspired chip. What is FPGA? Programming logical chip. What is ASIC? Application specific chip. What is edge AI hardware on device AI processing? What is low power hardware? Energy inefficient hardware? What is modular hardware? Replaceable component? What is open hardware? Open design hardware? What is sustainable hardware? Eco-friendly hardware. Final hardware awareness का क्वेश्चन आंसर है. What is hardware lifestyle life cycle? Hardware usage period. What is asset management? Hardware tracking. What is hardware inventory? Hardware list. What is decomposing positioning? Hardware retirement. What is e-waste? Electronic waste. What is e-waste management? Safe disposal. What is recycling hardware? Reuse material. What is green IT? Eco-friendly computing. What is hardware standardization? Uniform hardware specs. What is future hardware trend? AI driven hardware. यहाँ पे ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम बेसिक का क्वेश्चन आंसर. व्हाट इज एन ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम? सिस्टम कंट्रोल सॉफ्टवेयर. व्हाट इज मेन फंक्शन ऑफ ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम? रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट. विच इज द फर्स्ट प्रोग्राम लोडेड इन मेमोरी? ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम. व्हाट इज कर्नल कोर ऑफ ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम? व्हाट इज सेल यूजर इंटरफेस? What is multitasking? Multiple task execution. What is multi-programming? Multiple programs in memory. What is multi-processing? Multiple CPUs processing. What is time sharing operating system? Share CPU time. What is real-time operating system? Immediate response operating system. What is batch operating system? Batch job processing. What is single user operating system? One user at a time. What is multi-user operating system? Multiple user access. What is distributed operating system? Network-based operating system. What is embedded operating system? Device specific operating system. What is mobile OS? Smartphone OS. What is network OS? Network management OS. What is desktop OS? PC operating system. What is server OS? OS सब जगह रहेगा, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम समझिए. सर्वर मैनेजमेंट OS. What is which OS is open source? Linux. What is process program in execution? What is thread lightweight process? What is scheduling process? Execution border. What is CPU scheduling? CPU allocation. What is context switching process change? What is deadlock in OS? Circular wait. What is starvation? Resource non allocation. What is paging? Memory management technique. What is segmentation? Logical memory division. What is virtual memory? Disk based memory. What is file system? File organization method. What is directory folder? What is path? File location. What is root directory? Top level directory. What is device driver? Hardware control software. What is input output management? Input output control. What is buffering? Temporary data storage. What is pooling? Simultaneous operations. What is disk scheduling? Disk access order. What is file permission? Access rights. What is software set of what is system software? Operating system and utilities. What is application software? User oriented software. What is utility software? Maintenance software. What is firmware? Embedded software. What is freeware? Free software. What is shareware? Trial software. What is open source software? Source code available. What is proprietary software? Owned software. What is cloud software? Internet based software. Which OS is used in the personal computers? Windows. Which OS is developed by Microsoft Windows? Which OS is developed by Apple macOS? Which OS is used in iPhone iOS? Which OS is used in Android phones Android? Which OS is open source? Linux. Which OS is Unix based? Linux. What is GUI? Graphical user interface. What is CLI? Command line interface. Which interface uses command CLI? What is Windows Explorer file manager? What is taskbar? Program launcher bar. What is start menu? Program access menu. What is recycle bin? Deleted file storage. What is control panel? System setting tool. What is desktop? Main screen. What is icon? Program symbol. What is shortcut? Quick access link. What is Linux shell? Command interpreter. What is terminal? Command interface. What is software installation? Program setup. What is installation? Program removal. What is software update? Program improvement. What is software patch? Big bug fix. What is license? Usage permission. What is ULA? End user license agreement. What is subscription software? Period based software. What is pirated software? Illegal software. What is trial version? Limited time software. What is activation key? Software unlocking. What is file extensions? File type identifier. What is .exe file? Executable file. What is .docx file? Word document. What is .xlsx file? Excel spreadsheet. What is .pptx file? PowerPoint file. What is .pdf file? Portable document. What is .txt file? Text file. What is .jpg file? Image file. What is .mp3 file? Audio file. What is .mp4 file? Video file. What is MS Word processing software? What is MS Excel spreadsheet software? What is MS PowerPoint presentation software? What is Notepad text editor? What is Paint drawing software? What is web browser software? Internet access software. What is antivirus software? Virus protection software. What is compression software? File size reducer. What is database software? Data management software. What is multimedia software? Audio video software. What is programming software? Code development software. What is compiler? Source to machine translator. What is interpreter? Line by line translator. What is assembler? Assembly to machine translator. What is IDE? Integrated development machine environment. What is source code? Human readable code. What is object code? Machine code. What is debugging? Error removal. What is testing software? Quality checking software. What is version control? Code version management. What is disk cleanup utility? Junk file removal. What is disk defragmentation? File reorganization. What is system restore? Rollback system. What is backup utility? Data copy tool. What is antivirus scam malware detection? What is firewall software? Network security software? What is encryption software? Data protection software? What is comparison tool? File size reducer? What is disk partitioning? Disk division? What is boot manager? OS selection tool? What is user account? User profile? What is administrator account? Full control account? What is guest account? Limited access account? What is user authentication? Identity verification? What is user authorization? Permission granting? What is access control list? Permission list? What is password policy? Password rule? What is two-factor authentication? Two-step verification? What is biometric login? Body-based login? What is session timeout? Auto logout? What is cloud computing? Internet-based computing? What is SaaS? Software as a service? What is PaaS? Platform as a service? What is IaaS? Infrastructure as a service? What is virtualization? Virtual resource creation? What is virtual machine? Software-based computer? What is hypervisor? VM manager? What is container? Lightweight virtualization? What is Docker container platform? What is cloud backup? Online backup? What is AI software? Artificial intelligence software? What is machine learning software? Learning based software. What is data analytics software? Data analysis tools. What is ERP software? Enterprises management software. What is SCRM? Customer management software. What is CMS software? Content management system. What is open source license? Free usage license. What is proprietary license? Restricted usage license. What is end of life software? Unsupported software. What is software lifestyle? Life cycle software. Life stage. Final OS and software awareness का question answer. What is software upgrade? New version installation? What is backward compatibility? Old version support? What is system compatibility? Hardware software support? What is software crash? Program failure? What is system hang? System freeze? What is rebooting? Restart system? What is shutdown? Power off system? What is sleep mode? Low power mode? What is hibernation? Safe state and power off? What is system optimization? Performance improvement? subtopic का तो क्वेश्चन नंबर 2281 से which of the following is the brain of computer? CPU. Which memory is volatile in nature? RAM. 1 kilobyte is equal to 1024 bytes. Which of the following is in an output in input device? Keyword. Which of the following is not an operating system? MS Word. Which operating system is open source? Linux. The core of an operating system is called kernel. Which software is used to prepare documents? MS Word. Which key combination is used to copy text? Control plus C. Which file extension is used for Excel files? .xlsx. What does WW stand for? World Wide Web. Which device connects different networks? Router. Which protocol is used to send emails? SMTP. IP address is used to identify a device. Which of the following is a web browser? Chrome. Which storage device has no moving parts? SSD. Which memory is fastest? Cache. Which of the following is secondary memory? Hard disk. Pen drive uses which memory? Flash. Cloud storage means online storage. Which software protects computer from virus? Antivirus. Firewall is used for network security. Which of the following is a strong password? AV @ 9kx error. Phishing is related to online fraud. CAPTCHA is used to human verification. Which language is machine language? Machine level language, binary language. Compiler converts to source to machine. Which is not a programming language? HTML. Flowchart is used for program logic. Algorithm means step by step solution. Which software is used for presentation? MS PowerPoint. Which function is used to add number in Excel? Sum. Shortcut key to save a file? Control plus S. Header and footer option is found in Insert tab. Which view is default in MS Word? MS Word. Print layout. Full form of USB is Universal Serial Bus. Which unit measures CPU speed? Hertz. Which of the following is an example of output device? Printer. What is booting? Starting computer. Which key is used to delete text on right side? Delete. Which of the following is an example of system software? Windows. What does GUI stand for? Graphical User Interface. Which device is used to scan document? A scanner. Which of the following is not hardware? Windows. Which memory is called permanent memory? ROM. Binary number system uses digit 0, 1. Which key combination is used to paste control plus V? Which device converts digital signal to analog? Modem. Which of the following is not an input device? Monitor. Which software is used to browse the internet? Browser. Which unit is used to measure memory size? Bytes. Which memory is closest to CPU? Cache. Which of the following is non-volatile memory? ROM. BIOS is stored in which memory? ROM. Which storage device is used magnetic technology? Hard disk. Which OS is used in servers? Server OS. Which of the following manages hardware and software? Operating system. What is booting? A starting OS. Which OS allows more than one user at a time? Multi-user OS. Which OS is used in ATM machines? Embedded OS. Which feature is used to check spelling in MS Word? Spell check. Shortcut key to select all text is Control plus A. Which option is used to change page orientation? Layout. Which software is used for spreadsheet? MS Excel. Which symbol is used to start formula in Excel? Equal to. Which network converts a small area like an office? LAN. Which device boosts network signal? Repeater. Which protocol is used for web pages? HTTP. What does URL represent? Web address. Which of the following is a search engine? Google. Virus is a type of malware. Which attack steals personal information online? Phishing. Which software detects and removes virus? Antivirus. CAPTCHA is mainly used to prevent bots. Firewall works at which level? Network. Which language is called high level language? C language. Which language uses 0101 machine level language? Flowchart symbol are used to represent logic step. Algorithm is written before program. Debugging means removing errors. Which device converts analog to digital signals? Modem. Which key is used to rename a file in Windows? F2. Which OS interface is text-based? CLI? Which software compresses files? WinRAR. Which of the following is an output device? Monitor. Which key used to refresh a web page? F5. Which memory stores currently running programs? RAM. Which file extension is used for PowerPoint.pptx? Which network device works at a data link layer? Switch. Which of the following is a utility software? Antivirus. Which software is used to make a chart? MS Excel. Which command is used to paste text? Control plus V. Which device is used to hear sound? A speaker. Which software manages database? DBMS. Which of the following is not a browser? Windows. Which OS is used in smartphones? Android. Which unit is used to measure printer speed? PPM. Which of the following is an example of cloud storage? Google Drive. Which software is used for image editing? Photoshop. Which key combination is used to undo last action? Control plus Z. Computer works on which principle? Input process output. Which part of CPU performs calculation? ALU. Which memory is called main memory? RAM. Which unit converts a raw data into information? Processing unit. Which device is used to store a large amount of data permanently? Hard disk. Which memory is fastest in computer? Cache memory. Which of the following is optical storage? DVD. Which memory loses data when power is off? RAM. What is the capacity of Blu-ray disc? Approx 25 GB. Which device use flash memory? Pen drive. Which OS is known as real-time OS? RTOS. Which OS is used in embedded system? Embedded OS. What is multitasking? Multiple tasks at the same time. Which OS manage memory, CPU, and devices? Operating system. Which OS is text-based? DOS. Which MS Word feature is used in align text? Paragraph. Which Excel feature is used to sort data? Sort. Which view is used to run slideshow in PowerPoint? Slideshow. Which function counts number in Excel? Count function. Which shortcut is used to print document? Control plus P. Which network is largest? WAN. Which protocol is used to receive emails? POP3. What is the default port of HTTP? 80. Which device connects LANs? Router. What does ISP stand for? Internet Service Provider. Malware means malicious software. Which attack blocks normal access to system? DOS. Which tool protects network from unauthorized access? Firewall. The strong password should be letter, number, or symbols. Which software encrypts data? Encryption software. Which symbol is used for decision in flowchart? Diamond. Which language is platform independent? Java. Translator program is software. Which error occur during program execution? Runtime error. Compiler translator translates source to machine. Which key opens done light dialog box? Window plus R. Which software is used to play audio files? Media player. Which extension is used for compressed file? .zip. Which device produces hard copy? Printer. Which of the following is application software? MS Excel. Which unit measures monitor resolution? Pixel. Which OS is used in tablets? Android. Which key deletes character to left of cursor? Backspace. Which memory? Which memory stores booting instructions? ROM. Which device is used to connect computer to internet? Modem. Which OS supports multitasking and GUI? Windows. Which of the following is not a programming language? Excel. Which protocol is secure version of HTTP, HTTPS? Which attack redirects user to fake website? Phishing. Which software is used for presentation? MS PowerPoint. Which generation of computer used in vacuum tube? First generation. Which device is used to input image into a computer? A scanner. Which unit of computer is control all operations? CU. Data processed by computer becomes information. Which device display output on a screen? Monitor. Which memory is used to store BIOS? RAM. Which storage device has highest speed? SSD. Which unit is used to measure storage capacity? Bytes. Which memory is called cache memory? Primary memory. Which of the following is not a secondary storage? RAM. Which OS is developed by Google? Android. Which OS is used in Apple computer? Mac OS. Which OS supports multitasking? Windows. Which OS interface is graphical? GUI. Which OS is suitable for mobile phones? Android. Which tab contains font size option in MS Word? Home. Which Excel feature is used to apply conditions? Conditional formatting. Which MS PowerPoint features add animations? Which shortcut key opens a new document in Word? Control plus N. Which Excel function finds highest value? Max. Which protocol is used for file transfer? FTP. Which network connects computer within a city? MAN. Which device connects two different networks? Router. Which address uniquely identifies a device on network? MAC address. Which service allows sending electronic message? Email. Which malware disguises a genuine software? Trojan. Which attack copies keystrokes secretly? Keylogger. Keylogger यहाँ है. Which software protects system from unauthorized access? Firewall. Which practice ensure data safety? Backup. Which cybercrime involves fake emails? Phishing. Which language is object oriented? Java. Which error is due to wrong logic? Logical error. Which symbol represents a star in flowchart? Oval. Which translator converts line by line? Interpreter. Which step comes after algorithm? Flowchart. Which shortcut closes an active window? Alt plus F4. Which device provides audio output? Speaker. Which file extension is used for Word document? .docx. Which unit measures printer resolution? DPI. Which software is used to browse websites? Browser. Which OS is free and open source? Linux. Which key is to refresh desktop? F5. Which storage device is portable? Pen drive. Which application is used for calculation? MS Excel. Which key is used to open help menu? F1. Which protocol is used for secure web browsing? HTTPS. Which memory stores currently active data? RAM. Which software removes temporary files? Disk cleanup. Which which device is used for video calling? Webcam. Which term refer to illegal access of system? Hacking. Who is known as the father of computer? चार्ल्स बेबेज. ये तो सबको पता होगा, बचपन से पढ़ते आ रहे होंगे. Which language is directly understood by computer? Machine language. Which unit performs logical comparison? ALU. Which device is used to point and select items? Mouse. Which memory is for read only memory? ROM. Which storage device is used for backup? Hard disk. Which memory is temporary? RAM. Which OS is called open source OS? Linux. Which OS controls hardware and software resource? Operating system. Which OS is used in smartphones? Android. Which MS Word option is used to change text style? Font. Which Excel function is used to find average? Average. Which shortcut key is used to cut text? Control plus X. Which protocol is used to send email? SMTP. What does LAN stand for? Local area network. Which software protects computer from virus, antivirus? Which attack tricks user to give personal data? Phishing. Which key is used to undo last action? Control plus Z. Which device is used for video input? Webcam. Which software is used to browse the internet? Browser.
यहाँ पे आपका कंप्यूटर का वन शॉट क्वेश्चन आंसर कंप्लीट होता है। तो हम लोग मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में। तब तक थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग। लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब।